Welcome to the joint budget meeting with the Select Board and the Budget Committee. This is Monday, March 30th, 2026, and we're meeting at 5:30 p.m. in the meeting room at the Bethel Town office. For the Select Board, we have a full board here this evening, so we have a quorum, and the Budget Committee
6 of 9.
6 of 9. We've got a quorum as well. We're joined by Manager Sharon Jackson. We have our Finance Director, Stephanie Corvo, and our Clerk, Tracy Walker, and we have our various department heads joining us as well. Will you please join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we go right into our business items, and I'll turn it over to Sharon.
Thank you. I've given you all a packet of updated materials for the budgets we're going to review tonight. Those of you who left your binders here, Tracy put your documents in your binders for you. So the first budget in your packet, what you have first of all in your packet that I gave you was the updated summary, the airport budget that we're going to be reviewing tonight, the animal control and patrol budget, the Oxford County taxes and MSAD 44, even though we don't approve them, I've given you what it looks like to be right now, the administration budget, the capital budget, and I've also given you, last week we reviewed the recreation budget. That was the second budget that the recreation director had given me. I've given you a copy of his first proposed budget that he gave to me that we reviewed. I was going to give it to you last week, but we went so long I didn't get a chance. But I wanted you to see the first proposed budget he had that we reviewed and that agreed upon until I got his second one. So we can start right off. Randy Autry is here from the airport, and I will go through the airport budget, and then Randy, if you have any questions, either Randy or I could answer them for you. So we have the airport coordinator, who is, that's Randy's position. He receives a stipend that goes up 3% this year. And then we have an airport assistant. That person works 20 hours a month. That wage will increase to $23.79 an hour in this budget. Then we have, new this year in this budget is the snow removal. You may remember that last year's budget we contracted with Douglas for the plowing, and this was the first, last year was the first season we didn't have him, and we bought equipment to do the plowing. So this year you'll see the cost that we need for plowing the airport. So what we have is 2 staff members. The total combined wage for both of them, $65 an hour. This is estimated on 30 storms at 5 hours per storm, or 150 hours. So for staffing for snow removal, we're looking at $10,000. And then we have the personnel expenses. That includes the mileage, the meetings, the miscellaneous unexpected, and the cell phone reimbursement for the coordinator. That's $660. That stays the same. Advertising and printing, we're increasing that by $500 from $250 because we have more advertising needs that we experienced this year. And then the next line is this is for the credit card fees for the fuel purchases for the QT software program. It averages about $200 a month. So when someone goes to the airport to get gas, they have to use their card, and then the town is charged the fee. So that is what the $2,400 is for. Site licensing fee. That is the renewal fee for the site renewal, and the Tier 2 airport report, which is $100, so that is stays the same at $150. Everything you see on the green under the second column, that has to do with the snow removal this year. So we have the first line, which is the snow removal, maintenance, parts, and labor. That's estimated at $5,000. The $89,000 in column 1, that is what we paid Bennett to do. Bennett to do the plowing, but he wasn't able to do it that year, so we had to change, which is this current year actually. So this is for the annual servicing of the loader that we have to do, $1,000. Hydraulic transmission line repair estimate to $2,500. Cutting edges and miscellaneous parts for $1,500. So Scott is the one who did the assisting in the budgeting for the items in the green for the snow plowing. The next line for snow plowing is for the fuel. We're estimating the 966 loader and the mini loader, estimating 600 gallons of diesel at $3 a gallon, and yes, I understand that. Right now, we're looking at $4.50, but we're hoping by the time summer comes, everything will be back to normal. So we're estimating $1,800 for that. The snow removal for the rental, and that's for the mini loader. That's for 5 months, and that is $17,500. So the next one is the snow removal for the equipment, and that is to plow the mini loader. We need to purchase a plow for that mini loader. So everything in green is to do with the plowing at the airport, and it is less than the $89,000 that we budgeted when we contracted the plowing out. The next line is for the mowing services. This is to mow the inside fence area, trim around the runway lights, inside weather stations and signs, mow outside of the fence next to the cemetery and Cross Pit Road, trim around the trees and the sign. Young and Fleet do this, and this year there's a $300 increase. Mowing services for the front and the back side of the building, the walkway, and we contract with Countryside for that for $3,000. The cost is the same. Aviation fuel is down because this year we're looking at 2 purchases rather than 3 budgeted in current year. The last year, the sales for the delivery, the fuel were down considerably. So we're certain we will get by with 2. The next line is for the contracted services. That's at $3,200, up $200 from current year. That is for the annual domain name GoDaddy, $110.85. The fuel system QT Pod program, $1,675. The automatic fire monitoring service, $795. The air nav renewal, $171. Furnace cleaning, fire extinguisher inspections. The next line is maintenance and repair. That stays the same. That covers the cost of all replacements, repairs, and maintenance of the facility, small equipment and crack sealing. Sanitation services will be down $50. That is the Casella waste pickup and the annual tank pumping. On page 2, we have the telephone and internet. That is up $650. We have contracted, like all our departments, with First Light to cover telephone and internet. Supplies line will stay the same at $1,500. Heating fuel, basically up just a little bit by $375. We heat with propane at the airport, and that's based on 750 gallons at $2.03 a gallon. Water and utilities estimate $155 quarterly. That stays the same. The utilities electric averages about $525 a month. so that is down about $400. The airport liability insurance is $4,065, that stays the same. And that is a decrease in the budget of $86,655. Any questions?
Is there a reason why we have two different companies doing mowing?
Yes. Alan and Rick Young have big Kubotas with flail mowers and bush hogs, and they do on both sides of the runway, which is a lot more area. But the other guys have little pee-wee mowers, and they do the grass in front, and they weed whack. But when Alan and Rick do it, they do it.
He has two different types of services for the equipment.
And you figured
Great
out,
question.
and you figured out what they're actually mowing, that it's the town property, not the cemetery property?
Yes, we've decided we're not gonna mow the cemetery property anymore, and we've given them notice. That patch out front, if any of you have been by there, that patch out front actually belongs to the cemetery, and we've mowed it for years, because our sign was on the corner, and I think it was a handshake, or we're trying to be nice, I don't know why we ever did it, but, we no longer do that. We don't own it, we're not gonna mow it, so.
And then the mini loader, we're renting the mini loader, we're gonna buy a plow?
Scott?
We have a snow pusher on the Mini right now. We'd like to buy a plow with angle capabilities. It worked this winter. The plow on the pickup worked better. If it's gonna continue, we're gonna continue to need something small to get around the hangers and that stuff, and just make it that much easier for actually having angle capability as opposed to just a box scoop.
That makes sense, but the mini loader, we're renting it, I mean, does it get turned in after 5 months and we get
Yes.
another mini loader the next year, and so we have to keep
Yes.
taking the plow on and off?
It's quick attach.
Okay,
You curl out of it and slide on your attachment and connect your hydraulic lines when you're.
They say it takes like a minute and a half. For those of us who do it like once every 3 months, it takes a solid 15 minutes, but.
and they don't have one to rent,
Who?
the, whatever company is
The
providing?
plow?
Yeah,
No, no. They supply the machine with a bucket on it, and then the attachments are whatever we, so, and the same attachment would fit like a skid steer. There's been a little discussion about a skid steer or a mini loader as to which one would be better. But the implements would go either way.
so you can use it on other equipment pieces?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
I'm just trying to follow, we're renting one and owning another,
Yeah,
that's all.
I was gonna ask, like,
That's
is
all.
it cost effective for us to continue renting that piece of equipment, or should we look at, like, buying that, so?
Andy brought that up before. Andy had a business, and Andy understands mini loaders, and Andy mentioned before that, you know, that's our first year of doing this.
Yeah, no.
We needed to figure out what it would take, and then that's where we learned that the plow works better. But as Andy mentioned, we would be better off in the long run purchasing a used mini loader, and so we should start putting money aside for that 2 or 3 years, whatever, so that we could purchase something and no more rentals, no more companies, because their rates are high, just like the 89,000 was high because it was contract. You're gonna save probably 50% if we had our own equipment instead of renting, and so it pays for itself probably in 3 years.
And
So it's a great
we
point.
decided to run again this year to try it out for 2 years in a row to see where we are and then analyze what we need to do for next year.
Yeah, things will change a little bit once the upgrade starts, but
Yes, yeah.
So if we buy a loader that's gonna be compatible with whatever machine we eventually buy, as far as hookup is concerned,
yes. The
what happens
implement,
if they change models or whatever?
the implements we have now, you have like a skid steer attachment, or you have next step up is a backhoe attachment. We've been buying, the snow pusher we bought last year had the skid steer attachment. The mini sized loaders all come with a skid steer
And
adapter.
sometimes they're wider or narrower as far as the subframe that they hook up into, so.
Right, but we could take our sidewalk tractor and we could pick up the same implement on the front, it's the
No.
same size plate with.
No, right? Well, I'm talking about in the future, if they change design.
Well,
Yeah,
I
the
think it all
implement
falls
is-
under that skid steer size. If you step up into a bigger machine, then you start talking about a different type of hitch.
Okay.
What are we paying, what are we charging right now for fuel?
I have it budgeted at $3 a gallon.
No, I'm sorry, I meant, what are, for aviation, what are we charging?
For avgas, it's $5.95 a gallon, currently. You know the formula there? It's 3% to cover your credit card and $1 profit. Does that help?
Are we still the least?
We are very competitive. I could bring up and show you, we're very competitive with the other areas, but it's all in when you buy your fuel.
Yeah.
Like right now, we probably have 8,000 gallons left, which is a good thing. Because we don't have to go changing our prices all over the place to adjust for this temporary hike. We all hope it's temporary. But if you're buying fuel right now and you take a truckload on, you bring in 10,000 gallons at today or tomorrow's price, you're stuck. Because you're not gonna sell it for less than you bought it, and then our price, it looks better. You see how we don't go chasing prices? Whatever we buy it for, plus a profit, plus the 3% to cover the credit card, and we make money.
So,
It's not a
unless,
secret.
unless I did my math wrong, $82,000 at 8,300 gallons. Total gallonage. That's $9.88 a gallon.
It cost us approximately $40,000 for
Correct.
a load of 8,000 gallons, 8,000 to 8,500 gallons.
Correct.
And
What was that again?
It's around $40,000 for
Approximately
8,500
$40,000.
gallons.
which
That's
is why
as much as they can run down the road.
current year, we budgeted for 3 loads based on the previous year, and, but sales were good the previous year. We actually profit about $1 a gallon at what we paid for, excuse me, what we paid for this and what we're selling it for. We have approximately, I think it's $1.05 profit.
Jim, is it that, because it says 2 deliveries, each delivery may be that big?
Each
Okay.
delivery, we're looking at 2 deliveries,
So
that's
it
why I
would
put
really be like
$82,000.
16, 17,000 gallons, I think maybe that's.
Well, if we're getting if the deliveries are 40,000 gallons,
No, I
No,
didn't say that.
$40,000,
$40,000.
8,000 gallons, because
For
that's about as
8,500
much you can run over the road.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you take 82,000 divided by the 8,300 gallons, you're coming up.
Yeah, it's 16, like 16.6.
Correct.
Because it's 2 deliveries, each that size.
Correct.
That's 2 deliveries for 82,000.
Right, the total, sorry, I just want to
I
make
just
sure.
realized, yeah.
Right, it's not, the 2 deliveries don't equal 8,300 gallons, right? Each
No,
delivery,
each.
right,
Right,
each
right,
delivery,
that's-
okay, alright.
So that brings it down to 490.
It shows
Now you're in the ballpark.
8,300 to 8,600 gallons per
You're getting warmer.
delivery. We never know until they get there
Right.
what
No.
they'll deliver, but based on previous invoices, it's anywheres between 8,300 and 8,600 gallons per delivery.
Right.
Correct.
It was, wait, okay, I get it.
What's the life expectancy on the equipment that we purchased from Douglas? Any idea?
It's not gonna get a lot of use in between the seasons. We're gonna try to keep it moving, to keep it viable, but, a little bit of maintenance cost in here. There's a couple of preventative maintenance things we wanna do to it before.
So, Sherry, did you say that if we purchased, will we have to replace this equipment, that we can get the FAA to pick up some of the fee for that?
No, there's a process to go through. You can purchase snow plowing equipment for the airport with AIP funding. But it takes about a 2-year process. And then then FAA controls how you can use that equipment. It can only be used at the airport, and it has to be kept under housing. So we would have to have a facility to keep it housed in. If we purchased it with AIP money, right now the AIP money is used for different projects, and it's booked, if you will, for years out for different projects. So you would have to say, okay, we're not going to use the AIP money in the next couple of years or whatever. And right now, the AIP money is dedicated at least a couple of years out, but it's a couple-year process. Yes, you can do it. Freiburg purchased their equipment with FAA funds. They have a building that they keep their equipment in. It can only be used to plow the airport. There's different regulations, but yes, it can be done. But we would still be, from the time we would start it, it would take a good 2 years to get it approved.
So realistically, any savings that we see for the next 5 years are gonna be going away in a hurry when you have to purchase a $500,000 piece of equipment to keep plowing with you.
If we had to purchase one other than what we have now, yes.
So the plan, so the 966 is gonna do, it's not gonna be used for summer road maintenance stuff. It's just gonna get run around once in a while to keep it viable.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, very, very much, we can use a 966 for, in our world, it's a little bit big for, but that machine needs to move throughout the season, just to,
To keep it moving.
yeah, we're gonna find something just to keep it, stacking gravel in the yard or something like that, just to, so that it doesn't set.
Is there any issue with using, when we use town equipment over there, like a grader? If something happens to the grader while it's being used there?
No.
It's all town equipment,
Right, it all
Yeah.
comes under the category of town
I
equipment.
just didn't
and-
wanna,
And it is
I just,
insured.
if somebody sat there and saw the grader being used and they threw his fit and said, well, we just spent $100,000 on.
You can use any of the trucks, the grader, anything, because it's,
this town
the
stuff.
airport is the
Yep.
department of the town, and you can use it to plow any place.
we plowed a couple times this winter with a ton truck, just
It was
the way the
quick and
conditions
easy.
were.
Yeah,
You didn't need that great big loader out there on the runway.
And you need a smaller piece of equipment to
Right.
do in and around the hangars.
no, I get it, I just.
Big learning curve for us this
Yeah.
year.
Well, and that was a great point. I mean, this is what Scott does every day, right? And you can imagine the airport trying to manage the loaders and the people and everything, so Scott was fantastic helping us out, and it means a lot, so.
No,
We all wear the same hat.
Right.
Where's the 2 staff coming from to do the snow removal?
We hired those out.
Hired out.
Yes, they're not our regular staff. Our regular staff we couldn't use for this because they have their plow routes. And when the airport needs to be plowed, it has to come first. So, one did have experience, the other had somewhat experience, I guess you could say. Scott could speak more to that, but they had to be separate individuals.
Two
You happy
private,
with them?
huh?
You happy with them?
Yeah, I think they did a good job. One of them I know will come back again if we need him in the fall. The other one, I mean, what worked out good with the other one was he was in between jobs, so he had his driveways and things like that. So it worked out to be able to pick him up. I fully assume he'll have a full-time job by then, so we may have to look for somebody else. We tried to do it one man, and
It wasn't
It
enough.
is.
They went between all the hangers and.
yeah, so it is a two-man job, but we'll.
And it does require having someone with flexible hours so that when they're needed, they have to come. Other questions?
Why did the gas sales,
What's that?
why did gas sales decrease?
I have no idea.
Just,
Probably the winter, the winter we had.
gotcha.
I missed the question.
Why did the sales decrease?
We had a windy year, weather, it was a horrible year, you know, in lots of ice. The runway was shut down for over a week. And that's just unheard of. No one's ever heard of, you know, half an inch of ice on the runway. You could have skated on it, literally. So with the ice, with the wind and everything, it was a rough winter. And that happens, and it's very cyclical. Now this summer we could get, you know, it could be crazy up here. So we never really know, and that's what's difficult about budgeting. And that's why we took the chance in lowering the fuel cost, to sort of make an adjustment.
Who's the airport assistant?
Brett.
Brad Corson, he's the tech out there that, he dips the tank every week and he checks all that. It's Brad Corson, First Light.
Are we expecting a loss in revenue from fuel sales because we're not buying as much, we're not supplying as much?
Correct, we're expecting less, and we're sort of hedging our bets on that.
Yeah.
So, and it's also timing, like when you need fuel, this is the unfortunate thing, like if we can squeak a tank and then make it over to July, then it's next year's instead of, you know what I mean? It's always a game, and we start calling them a month ahead to try to get the best price and figure out what the price is, and we can pull the trigger. We have a 12,000 gallon tank, and we can only take 8,000, so we've got a little bit of room there to call them ahead and see when the price is good or if it shifts. And believe me, it shifts from week to week.
The snow removal equipment, for the mini loader, it seems like that could be something that could be put in capital. What was the reasoning to put it in operating?
Just because it was something that was needed in this budget and didn't feel it was needed to go into capital.
And I put the page over to revenue, and just, there's some revenue offsets that come in as it relates to the airport. The one piece, the taxes on the hangar lease, now that it's not an enterprise account, but just a regular department, that wouldn't be a direct offset to the airport.
No,
So
I know
far.
that. Well, I just wanted people like to see what we're bringing in for taxes, so we included that to show how much taxes we are getting for the hangars.
Hey, what's the snow removal hangar lease?
No removal around.
Oh, and the revenue, I get it.
They have, the
So-
hangars
Owners pay for snow removal
Correct.
around their hangars.
Yes, they have to pay plowing fee every year, and that we have a formula that we use based on the size of their hangar. And so they have to pay a hangar fee every year, in addition to paying a lease fee every year.
Why did the hangar lease taxes drop?
Because
And hangar sales drop?
because all of the leases were redrafted. Some of the leases were held over from being renewed, well, actually for the last quite a few years, 10 and over in some cases. And every time there was a lease done, there was no consistent way of charging the lease amount. So the airport board worked on having the lease fee being very consistent based on the size of their hangar, and so everything was changed, and now everyone is paying based on the same rates. So it did change. There was actually one that increased, but the other three decreased.
And then niece's lease payment is actually a mortgage payment, right?
Yes, it is. It's paid monthly.
So the only other question I had is, am I correct, we're looking at right now about 40,000 savings in snow removal?
Just about, yes.
Current? Cool.
It's costing us less to do it than it was to contract it out. But again, we
No,
just
I meant-
finishing the first year.
I mean, what we, yeah,
Can we put that somewhere for future equipment? I guess I don't see that, and maybe it is budgeted under capital, that might be.
Put what?
Well, if you're gonna save $40,000 in theory on the snow removal, it's like Levi mentioned, at some point, we're gonna have to spend $500,000 on a new piece of equipment or something. Hopefully, it's not for 20 years, but I'm just wondering, but if we put $20,000 aside for the next 10 years, or 15 years, we'll,
You can add money to capital to do that with, but you can't take this money and put it there. You can budget an amount of money in capital every year for that.
That money has to go in a designated fund balance.
Yes.
well, where I was going with that is we budgeted 89 for this year.
And we used it. We used every bit of it. We'll have you, at the end of this fiscal year, we will have used that $89,000 because of all of the purchases we made and hiring everyone.
Okay.
right,
Because
we
it was
actually, didn't we have a special town meeting? and
Yes.
appropriate more
To,
money?
to buy the loader,
Yeah.
yes, but we had, this was the first year startup, so we had additional costs
Right.
to get started up. So, that 89,000, in addition to the 100,000 that we raised, is being used for the snow plowing. So there's not gonna be anything really left to put aside anyway, but you can't take what's left over in the budget and put it aside. You would have to budget money in a capital account
Right.
for future, yeah,
So
that's how
the,
it would be
so
done.
under the expense report, under what, 52,509, for administration expenses on snow removal. We're just clarifying, so we did 89,000 we approved. We spent 24,000 with a balance of 65,000.
Those are not all caught up to date,
Right.
so, it's still hard to tell by that.
But you do make a good point about saving for snow plowing equipment that when you get to the capital, you can see.
Other questions on the airport? The next is the animal control and county patrol. So animal control, Betsy, handles all the animal control complaints. We're estimating, oh yes, it's your tab. Do you know where your tab is? Okay. We pay the animal control officer $25 an hour for call-out calls. So anytime the animal control officer gets called out for call, it could be an hour, it could be 3 hours, that's $25 a call, so that's staying at $5,000. We pay responsible pet care of Oxford Hills $1.45 per capita times the last census amount of 2,504. That is 3631, that stays the same. The ACO annual stipend is, has a 3% increase, so this year it'll be $1,273. He gets that stipend monthly for being on call to answer calls. And then the next line is for mileage for the animal control officer. For all his calls, and we also have to pay for stray cats when cats are taken into shelters when they are brought in and they're from Bethel. So that has a slight increase of 0.3%, $37. Any questions on the animal control officer?
What do you pay for mileage?
72.5 cents, which is the federal rate. That's for everyone in here where you might see mileage. All set on that?
And that, he does, our animal control officer does several towns, correct?
He does, but this is just for Bethel.
Right.
So, yes, he does work for other towns.
So the fee to Responsible Pet Care is a one-time fee that we pay?
It's an annual fee we
Okay.
pay in 2 monthly, 2 installments,
Okay,
every 6 months.
okay.
I think that's how they bill us. Next is patrol coverage. So current year, this fiscal year, we're paying $673,865 from July 1/25 to June 30/26. And that is based on the county's fee to us at $168,466.22 per deputy. That's how they started billing during this current year. They've given us a cost of what they're going to be charging for the next fiscal year. They're charging us the first 6 months, July to December, $171,488.66, and then from January 27 to June of 27, $176,486.57 for the next 6 months. So the total for the fiscal year billing is $695,950.46. That is a $22,085 increase. That is in here because that is the cost of what they have told us they're going to charge us. That is being discussed right now with the select board and the county. But that's what we have for a price right now for the patrol coverage. Questions?
If, I mean, depending on how we vote today, and if what's on the warrant, what happens if the townspeople don't vote for this
The money
number?
on the
What's-
warrant.
Yeah, then it just goes, we automatically would have to go to, just having the Oxford County, I know you explained, the person who's.
Well, I think it depends. If the town voted not to allocate any money, then we wouldn't have any deputy.
Right.
And that would be that. If the town voted to allocate a portion of this, then we would probably, as I'm guessing, we would probably as a board have to meet with the county commissioners and say,
Okay,
this
so
is
we
what
can
the
do
town-
that, and we can come up with a different.
This is what was
a
approved,
different
and
number.
obviously, it wouldn't be enough the way they're billing us for. The board would have to look at different options at that point.
right. So like if they said, let's say the town decided on 600,000.
Yeah,
We could negotiate and hope that they were willing to give us $95,000 off instead of just 4 deputies. I'm sure they wouldn't. We'd
Right.
probably end up having to do a 3-deputy thing or something.
okay,
Would be my,
all right.
You know, none of us like this, but we have taken this to town meeting at least 6 or 8 times that I've been sitting here, and people put their hand up every time.
well, it was pretty close
Well,
last year.
It was close,
It was
but
very
still.
close last year, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
It was gone up, in what, 10 years we've been doing this, we've gone up $400,000.
Yeah. Over
We
10
started
years.
out at 300.
It's over 10 years.
Yeah, but I mean, we started out at 300. And now
Well,
we're-
you started out at
We had 3
almost,
deputies.
almost 400,000.
That was started out with 3 deputies.
I think. No, that wasn't gonna be.
No,
That was gonna
we
be
were,
with
the original started, I think it was regular 300,000.
We
It
used
was
to
around
have-
sure.
Sharon has it on here,
Yeah.
from
Yes, I did on the bottom of your sheet.
Yeah, and that's,
I show you from 2022 what we've paid and the increase each year.
And that was
Just-
always 4 officers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
well, I don't know that.
no, it was not always 4 officers.
and they held the rate for 3 years,
Yeah.
one period,
Yeah.
in the beginning and stuff. What, just in case you see any commissioners in your life, what we are talking to them about is, they have a fiscal year of the calendar year, we have a fiscal year of July 1 to June 30th, and in their budget, so you see the number that we have budgeted for 25 to 26, they have that number budgeted all for 26. So for us to pay anything more at the end of 2026, we're paying right to the bottom and helping the whole county, instead of just paying what they've budgeted. So if you see any commissioners, you can help support by saying, no, we're going to pay for what you budgeted in the current year. Or go change your fiscal year to match most of the towns in your county, so it can be straightened out. So, public service announcement, thank you.
But I mean, we should, I feel like we should, when we do our budget, well, I don't know, I guess we have to go with what they said, but I mean, that first number for July 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2026 should be half.
Yeah, it should be the one, what we
Half less
currently, the 168,
I feel like-
466, yeah.
I don't, yeah. I don't know how we justify that too.
Well, you've tried explaining that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh, yeah, we went before the commission with about 5 points, and they still have come back.
I mean, at least they broke it into 2 different
Yeah.
parts, but like, I feel like they didn't get it what we tried to say,
Yeah.
or, I don't know.
And like Sharon said, we're still trying to talk to them, because even with the increase in, when you look at a county budget, you'll see unclassified wages of about $200,000, of which the whole county, all the towns, all the taxpayers pay on that $200,000. That is a provision for, primarily, they have a deputy union contract, it's up this year, so, you know, they too have to budget, and they don't know what that number's gonna be, so that's where the increase will come from, is in the unclassified wages. So again, we are already paying taxes on that unclassified wages, so even if they anticipate a 3% increase, that's where it will come from. More than you wanted to know, we can have a separate conversation, but we're still having conversations with the commission. Hopefully they can see it our way.
I think it's also worth noting the concern that we've been talking about the mutual aid piece, where we are the only town in this area that has this extended coverage, which means oftentimes our deputies are responding to calls outside of Bethel. And there's currently no, as far as we know, there's no system in place for compensating Bethel for the fact that we are providing coverage elsewhere, and it hasn't really been tracked in a way that makes it possible to understand how much time the deputies are spending outside of Bethel, and how that affects call times, response times, things like that.
They do send another deputy to cover, but again, we could have the first responder to other towns around us coming from here. And we've put that before them too, and hope to talk to other counties like Penobscot County that adjusts for that type of situation. But again, if you see any of the commissioners, put a bug in their ear.
Other questions? Okay. So the next page is the Oxford County taxes. We do have that amount. This year, our amount is $1,218,376. That's a decrease of $22,898 from current year, so that's at the top of that page. That is not something that we vote on, but it is something that we have to pay.
It's interesting that it's just about the same as the increase in.
Do you know where it is?
It's
What's that?
Oh, I was just
The
asking.
increase.
Oh, sorry.
And that's,
Are the pages that you guys, are they different than what's on today?
Some of them are, some of them are not. That one's not, that's the same, but I wanted you to have it readily available, so that's why
yeah, just a little bit of a, because a lot of you supported me to be on the Oxford County budget, so, that decrease, they've kept a lot of their expenses even, they've tried to keep a lot of their expenses even. They do have human capital, like most municipalities and county do, and that's where a lot of, increases come in. But what was different this year that they haven't had in the most recent past is the state contributed more money to the jail portion, of their budget. So that was really helpful, in getting these figures that you see here, just FYI.
So again, on the bottom of the Oxford County chart, you can see a chart where I show previous years what the county has charged us and what the increase has been each year. The next section is MSAD 44. The number in here, 5,265,000, that I got from Mark on the 16th of March. He did tell me, I put a note here, that the full board will be voting on April 13th. That was the number he had at that time, so I put it here as a placeholder. He said they're looking to bring that down to about 9%.
And the overall budget should be just a smidge one way or the other, a 7, depending on insurance. But I don't know the formula. I know we're responsible for more of the increase.
Okay.
The town is, but it's the overall budget's gonna be, depending, we budgeted 15% for insurances, and that was the high end, so if it comes in a little less, we'll be a little bit below 7%.
Okay, well, that's even better than what he said.
Yeah.
So, and then, of course, the final vote is in June, but Mark will update this number for me as it might change a little
After
bit.
that board meeting, we should
Yeah.
be able to, yeah.
Okay, so I just put it in there as a placeholder.
Does this increase include a step up? You know how the formula has been changing year to year, and I think we're coming up towards
Didn't we do the last one last year?
I don't know.
There was one
Pretty sure we did
last
the
year.
last one
Yeah,
last
so there'll
year.
be one more for 2028 then,
No, I think after is it
or
at
at the
85,
full
right?
formula.
I think it got there.
Okay.
There's been no
I'd be
discussion
interested in-
about that at any one of the finance meetings.
If we meet again, I'd be interested to know if we have one more step up.
I thought that was from the meeting last year that we were done.
I think we're done, but I'm not sure. I can ask. It hasn't been discussed, so.
All set on that? Okay, so the next budget is the administration. We'll start right from the top. All of the wages in here include a 3% increase plus a 45-cent an hour adjustment for the state minimum wage adjustment. That is for 6 staff, and all stipends in here have a 3% increase. So we have the town manager budgeted at 52 weeks for $75 an hour. The town clerk is budgeted at $29.81 for $62,005. Now, when you look at the fiscal year 25 and 26 budget, that was a different person than what is in there now. So you see a 0.33% increase. That's based on that budget, current budget. So I just want to explain that some of these had a different person in the position last year for the budget than the person there this year.
And they would have been at a different pay scale?
Yes, they would have gotten a different rate. The next one is the deputy clerk 1. That is, she's the deputy town clerk and the deputy registrar of voters. Her wage is at $25.69 an hour. She's been here, just like the town clerk, just about 6 months. Her job this year is $53,435. Then we have the assistant clerk 2 position, which is the assistant deputy clerk at $27.51 an hour for $57,221. Then we have the overtime for the 3 clerks above. That covers overtime for tax season, meetings that they have to attend, specifically select board meetings. That's based on 75 hours. It covers for when people are out, these clerks are out on vacation, sick leave, staff shortages, and elections. Overtime, that is increased by $4,000. Then we have the finance officer. That wage is set at $35.47 an hour for $73,778. And we have a finance assistant. That is based on $27.51 an hour, $57,221. The overtime for the finance clerks, both of them, that is up $500 from $5,000 to $5,500. That covers the time that the finance officer spends for the audit, budgeting, end of the year, $2,100. Finance assistant is planning board meetings, select board meetings for sewer, and end of the year, $3,400. So that is $5,500. Then we have the CEO/LPI position, and that position also is the health inspector. That's at $32.32 an hour for $67,226. The administrative assistant part-time position that I'm looking to hire. This will be a 20-hour-a-week position at $30 an hour. That will provide assistance to the town and airport manager and the finance officer, and that is at $31,200. The next line is for the election workers for the November 2026 election and the June 2027 election. I highlighted that because some of these I had to make changes to for the dates. That is budgeted at $2,500. We have the select board stipends. There are 5 at $60 and $60 a year for $8,300. The select board expenses, mileage covers the 72.5 cents per mile for attending workshops, literature that may be needed. We allow $200 for each at $1,000. SAD 44 director stipends. We have 6, that's budgeted at $321 a year. And I noted that SAD 44 does budget for $400 per year for each. So the cost for us is $19.26. Planning board stipends will be paid $25.75 per meeting. Attendance is required. That's based on 24 meetings a year at $4,326. Planning board expenses covers trainings, mileage, literature, based on $100 each for $700. Conservation Commission, that is for their miscellaneous trail projects, food and materials for community outreach projects, expenses for Green Up Day, registration fees, membership and conferences, and mileage, $500. On page 2, $400 covers the moderator fee for 2 town and or special town meetings. The next is for staff expenses. That remains at $12,000. That covers the town manager, CEO, and 5 staff for workshops, mileage, memberships, cell phone reimbursement, and various recognitions if we have to do any of those. Election and town meeting expenses, $4,000 will stay the same. That covers the election systems and software, coding and ballots for signs, food, and the Legion building rental, which is $1,000 when we use the Legion. So we would have 2 of those for this year. Assessor contracted services, that is for RJD's appraisal services, Annual contract, I've allowed a 5% increase, looking at 27,900. Assessor stipends, we have 5 at 536 annually for 2680. Assessor expenses, again, based on trainings, mileage, literature, as may be needed, $100 each for 500. Mapping, this covers all of the CAI map maintenance and the GIS, $6,500, same as last year or current year. The AvCog Council of Government annual dues will be $9,324. The Maine Municipal Association dues for the calendar year, $6,303. The Harris Trio municipal software modules that we use for all of our software programs, $28,850. Annual auditing for the town, $25,000, that will stay the same. Tax bill outsourcing, we, all of our tax bills are sent from an outsourcing company. We send all the information to them and they send all of the taxes out. $1,700. Legal services for the town, $25,000, stays the same. Computer tech, we pay that to Modem Waves. That covers the cost of all maintenance that we have to, that we require for our computers. When we have problems, it's a 40-hour contract. That stays the same. Shredding on site, we have a machine here. They come and empty the shredding tote, $650. Printer lease, we no longer have this lease. I referenced to see account 711 where that's going to be budgeted. The code maintenance, that covers periodic annual updates to our code. I'm not budgeting anything in that line this year because we have a remainder in capital that I want to use for fiscal year 2027 so that we don't have to budget any money here. The next line is maintenance contracts for copier and printers. This is our new company, which is called Connected Office. It's for the main printer and 8 regular printers. When we went with them current year, they supplied us with all new printers. So anytime a printer fails, they bring another one. There's no cost for it. And we also don't have to pay those recurring copier fees. This is a one-time charge every year. The next page 3, the website. There's no cost this year. Current year we paid $5,645 to renew the 3-year subscription with Town Cloud for the town's website and agenda package. That is paid through July of 2028. Advertising, printing for the town, we've reduced that to $2,000 from $5,000. We do not have as many ads in the paper, which that's a significant decrease for us. So we were able to cut that by $3,000. It does include all town printing, advertising, jobs, public hearings, appointments that we do have to have. And I've included a membership fee of $325 to join the Chamber of Commerce in Bethel. The next line is phone, internet, and fax. That is $7,500. That is a significant increase from what we had before. That we had 4 different phone companies before. We had GWI, Spectrum, and First Light. We now have everything with First Light. And you may remember some of the conversations we had. Some departments went up, some went down. This also, now all of the lines they talk to each other. So it's been good to do this change. The next line is postage purchases for the town. We do need to increase that by $4,000. It includes all postage for mailing town correspondence, post office box rental fee, the annual for that is $368. Postage to mail the tax bills, which is about $1,800. We also use that to pay for all liens, foreclosure notices for both sewer, real estate that we have to send out. The postage meter annual fee is $800, stays the same. Supplies, we feel we can decrease that by $1,000 this year. It covers all basic office supplies. Town report publications, annual town reports will stay at $900. Lien foreclosures, this is to file all legal documents at the Registry of Deeds. We're estimating staying the same, even though the filing fee increased from $19 to $25 on January 1st. Property taxes that we pay the town of Newry for the former sledge field, so we're estimating $600 this year. So the administrative budget is increasing this year by 7.42%, or $54,769. Questions?
Sharon, on the legal services, why does it say excluding wastewater treatment plant?
Because we'll be budgeting legal fees in the wastewater treatment plant. A lot of the legal fees that we have are relative to the grants that we have there, so they would be charged off to that. And they are separate from us, but we generally don't have any.
How much do the other towns pay their staff for? Or are they only getting the 400 from the towns? I mean, from staff 44.
No, Woodstock pays, Woodstock and Greenwood and Replied, one of them pays $750 a year. Both Woodstock and Greenwood pay at least double what we pay.
Plus they get the 400 from
The school, yeah,
which is coming from us.
yes, because it's in the school budget.
In the notes that we had, when we had the wages, we had heard back from Greenwood, 700, Woodstock, 2,500, I'm not sure what that means though,
That was,
but all of them?
Yes.
Yeah, and Newry at the time, we didn't have a number for them.
questions?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
What's the difference between the rec department trying to create a assistant as opposed to what you're trying to do with the town manager and airport, finance officer?
So here in the office, there is not enough staff for all the jobs to be done and kept caught out. It's a very heavy workload for, I don't know what the difference is, if
Well,
that's what
because
you.
we really shouldn't be doing the other. I go back to this, okay, you know, I got that code, and, yeah, I've got some research to do, but I don't believe it is. So, what justifies, and I'll be blunt, what justifies you being able to come up with a assistant finance and town manager office?
Because as a manager, I can see the workload on every desk here, and I'm recommending that we need a part-time position to cover some of the jobs that are not getting done here. And that is my job as the manager to do that. So when I started here, everything was way behind, and in working to catch everything up and keeping everything current, we worked very hard to do that. It's taken 2 years to realize that one of the reasons is lack of staffing and lack of experience. And after 2 years, the airport is, the town manager is also the airport manager. And there's a lot of work that's required there. And there's no assistance for the manager to do any of that. In working with staffing that you're hiring, that are inexperienced, being trained, it requires a lot of my time to monitor these positions to make sure that the jobs are being done the way they're supposed to be done, or to the monthly reconciliations to make them done. So based on my analysis the past 2 years, we have had to use the clerk that I'm recommending to hire. We started having the auditors do the work that needed to be caught up as far as bank reconciliations and work they needed at the end of the fiscal year to even begin the audit, because everything was so behind in that. That's at a cost of their rate at $125 an hour. But audits can't be started until the work is done. So then I hired someone to come in and do that work at well below half of what they were charging, that could keep up with getting that work done. And now I'm recommending that we hire that same person on a part-time level, because we do require the extra help to get those jobs done. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's why I am recommending that we have a part-time position. It's either the work is done or it continues to go behind, and I think that in the past 2 years, we've made a lot of progress in keeping the work caught up. What happened even in the past 2 years, when you have a lot of movement with staff and constantly changing staff, when someone comes into a new job, especially if they've never worked in a municipality, you have a year training. It takes a year to get up to where you need to be. So you're constantly training someone all the time, therefore you don't have the quality time to actually get the job done. So what I wanna do is, we need to have someone else pick up the slack on some of the work that needs to be done, so that we can stay caught up with past and move forward with present. But this office does require an extra person. The other thing is unlike other places I've been, that this is the smallest town I've worked in. It's the busiest. I would have to analyze it as being the busiest of 4 towns I've worked in, who have even double the population. Number one, there's no sewer department, and there's no airport. The airport and the sewer district require a lot of work that has to be done. A lot of that falls on the finance officer's position, finance director officer's position. We have 2 USDA grants, and we have another Northern Borders grant. All of those grants require a lot of balancing and making sure that everything is done the way it's supposed to be done. That takes a lot of extra time, so those things alone, in addition to all of the airport grants, we have airport grants that other towns don't have. That takes additional time as well. So if you didn't have an airport, and you didn't have a wastewater treatment plant with all these grants, and you're just doing the financing work on a day-to-day basis, then there's a lot less time that is needed for the finance person to do. A lot of towns don't have sewer either for sewer billing. We took sewer billing back here last October because the sewer billing was done in Bethel at one time when they started, and then it was, they contracted with Maine Rural Water to do it, and that was a complete disaster, in my opinion. We had more complaints and we dealt with more problems when they were doing the billing. Once we took it back over, we've been going through all the problems, and we've been able to get everything back aligned good, so that the customers now have a clear understanding of how the billing works. And, I mean, one of the things we did was, the clerk in that position was able to find a lot of accounts that had never been billed before. But that wasn't the fault of anybody here, that was the fault of, in the transition, those accounts weren't picked up by Maine Rural Water. So if you want the work done and done right, and not just get it half done before you have to go on to something else, we do require additional staffing. Will you always need that additional part-time? I can't say that right now, but right now, there is a need for a part-time person.
So what I heard was sewer and airport are the main reasons why you need that person.
Sewer, airport, and the treatment plant. Because all of those together, those are extra duties that are involved in, for the manager and the finance person.
Why can't we pass those costs on to them?
The airport is a town department, so there's no passing that on to anybody.
You can increase hangar fees, you can increase tie-down fees, you can increase your profits and gas.
You still have to budget what you need, even though you pass the even though you increase the revenue, we still have to budget what we're going to spend. So,
So, how do you justify to the other employees that are assistants, that are getting anywhere from $3 to $5 less than what this person's gonna get for the same amount of stuff?
because she's qualified to do these finances. She's getting just under what, she has 30 years of experience doing these financial jobs, and the finance officer is making 34 something an hour, and she would be making 30 an hour. She contracts herself out for $50 an hour. But she would take the job, I'm paying her $30 an hour right now. And if we don't have the part-time position come July 1st, then there's no one here to do the jobs that she's been doing now, to catch us up and to try to stay current.
So right now, we're paying this person $50 an hour?
30.
Does that come underneath the aspect of wages where the budget committee doesn't have any say?
Yes,
Okay.
the select board approve positions and the wages for positions, and then it's put into the budget, and then you either approve it or not, and it has to be approved pending going on to any town warrant by the select board.
And the board hasn't discussed it yet, we've just received a job description, so we'll be discussing it on Wednesday.
So, is the budget committee gonna be voting on any of these, wage things in here on where it's only a select board function? There's no
My-
reason why we should be voting, if we can't have any input, there's no reason why we should be voting on any of these wages as far as, whether they're justified or not.
So, I would say that I would ask the budget committee to vote on the budget as presented, and that would be contingent upon the select board approving my recommendation Wednesday night.
And then what would happen if we didn't approve, then would we need to come back to approve?
Well, that money would come out of this budget,
It would
that
just-
the
okay.
Budget Committee
You see what I'm looking
Okay.
at?
voted on.
Why are we even looking at it if we're not,
Well,
if we don't have any input, then
it has a, part of the budget, committee charges is, it has an impact. Creating a new position and the wages that go with it has an impact.
It
So
does
your-
have an impact,
So
but-
your input,
but we don't have any direct say as to the
Positions.
position.
right.
Right,
But you
So
can give us
if
your-
we don't have any
You can give
input,
us your
then why am I
feedback.
voting on it?
You can give us your feedback.
Well, and
well, you're not really voting on the you're voting on the total budget
Yeah,
that is
but-
being introduced.
Part of that budget is wages, and we don't have any say on any wages, so why are we voting on wages?
well,
Because it's part
It
of,
doesn't make sense.
can, in theory, couldn't, and it's been a few years since I did this, so maybe I've got the process wrong, but don't we each go and vote on the budget at the end here?
yes,
And if you didn't say like that, 31,200, you could, I assume, make a motion to approve the budget less the 31,200. Now, that doesn't really mean, like, we, I guess, could take that 31,200 from somewhere else within the budget. You're only lessening them.
Not as far as the budget committee is concerned.
I thought you could, but I could be
Is-
wrong.
Is
what
that
did
a
you say
state
when
law?
you said take it from someplace else?
So, what I'm saying is that we would vote on the total,
Mhm.
right? And if they say, you know, if they say didn't want that, they can make a motion within their, because they're doing their own vote, right?
Right,
To approve it, to
Less
approve this
that.
budget less the 31,200.
yeah,
That's, I guess, the actionable step that the budget committee would have. Now, that's truly only affecting the bottom line of the budget. It's only, so, I guess I don't, you wouldn't necessarily be eliminating the position. In a sense, you would be recommending, because this all goes as to recommendations, right? When the town's gonna look at this and say, you know, the budget committee does recommend this, and the select board does not recommend this, or whatever. So I guess there is some action that you can take in regards to it, but it's not specific to the position itself, it's specific to the overall number.
right, but if, let's say the Budget Committee voted the amount less that amount, that position, and the Select Board did the same, it would be that position that wouldn't be covered in this budget.
Right.
Is it a state statute, or is that just us town saying that we don't have any say on the wages?
That the Budget Committee, that's in your ordinance, that's in your code, that's how the code is written.
And there's, also other places like Oxford County, the commissioners, set the wages, at the
I just
Oh,
didn't know
county.
if there was something backing that on the state
No.
side, or.
Yeah.
And typically, it is the Select Board, and it doesn't matter what town you are, that set the wages. It's not a state law, but every town I've been in, the Select Board set the wages. Budget committees are advisory only to the Select Board, however it's written in their ordinances. So, budget committees, every place I've been, have not had the ability to make decisions on positions added or deleted. It's the Select Board, that is one of their responsibilities.
But like Amy said, you do have impact on the total.
Right.
Like at Oxford County, the budget committee there didn't support the increase to the commissioners' wages. And there was some other positions, like with the registry, where they supported the amount of money that would, then the commissioners would have that to pay the person. So they worked with the amounts.
So one of the things that was happening before is either paying overtime or paying a part-time person. And it's far more effective to pay a part-time person that does that job on a regular basis than it is to overwork your current staff and pay overtime to get jobs done that needed to be done, get done.
Sharon, that was actually one question I had. If we added that part-time position, would overtime, I mean, I know it's overtime for clerks, so it's different, but would that, you know, you've done all the calculations, but would it need to go up by $4,000 if there's another person in the office?
I
would that
didn't
help?
look to see what it would need to go up with the overtime. What I'm looking at is not increasing the staff that need to cover these jobs that have to be done. They work a 40-hour week now. Having them work a 45-hour-a-week job is not a good thing to do because you're overworking staff more than you should. So one of the things that you have to be able to recognize is that there is more work to be done than people that we have to fill the positions. And, you know, with all due respect, nobody knows that any more than I do. The select board really can't confirm that, and neither can the budget committee or any other board or committee. I see the jobs that are not getting done because we don't have the staffing to do it. And that's why I'm recommending that this position be added.
Am I right in understanding that the typical process for adding a position to the budget is that it would be approved by the select board first, and the rate would be approved first, and then it would be added to the budget, and then it would be reviewed and voted on? Is that the typical process? And part of the challenge here is that we're not following that process right now.
Well, I don't think it's that we're not following it. It was late in the game when it was realized that that's how it was written in the code.
Right, which I believe is the same challenge with the rec position too.
Mhm. But the rec
But just-
position is a little bit different, and I'll go over that when we get to the rec budget.
Yeah, I think that Bob made a really good point, that like, they are similar
Mhm.
in that they are coming to this board maybe outside the typical process, which brings up a couple other questions about rate and job description, which shouldn't necessarily be discussed in this space.
Right.
And it also, I see them as very similar in that they're both ways to like take advantage of a capacity need, identify an opportunity, potentially save money or even increase revenue in the rec position in particular. But seeing so much of the work that you've done has saved so much money in terms of the administrative work and uncovering some of inefficiencies or creating new opportunities for consolidating purchasing, and I see this as another opportunity for that.
I think what Bob's saying is, I don't think people have disagreement with that. I think what Bob's saying is, there's a process.
Right, that's exactly what I'm
We should be following
saying.
the process instead of rushing at the last minute throwing things in.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I think I wanted to kind of like point out that and also recognize that like, you know, we're in the position that we're in, so. we
So
have to
the
do what we
select
have to
board
do.
are going to be, they will review this Wednesday. And if you're not comfortable with voting on this tonight, then I would have another meeting where you come back after the select board discuss this on Wednesday night to vote on the administration budget.
But the select board still has to discuss the part-time for the rec department too.
Yes, that's when, on Wednesday night.
At the same time, we're gonna think.
Other questions?
I have one little one. Are tax bills allowed to be emailed? Do you know, can people walk in and say, I don't want it in the mail, I want an email instead?
We do email some tax bills, but all tax bills go out at the same time. That guarantees that everybody gets their tax bill.
But there's no law against emailing.
I don't know specifically, no, but this is the best way to do it.
Are you asking if we could email them instead of mailing them?
I wouldn't
Save some money.
That's not gonna save any money. that's gonna increase the time that it's gonna take to do that.
You know, here again, this would be another entity that's relying upon something that not everybody has.
Right.
Or looks at. I
Yeah.
have email, I might look at it once a month. So,
Well, I think it could be
how would I
optional.
know if I ever got a tax bill or not?
And things may change in the future, but right now, this is, it treats everybody fairly. It all goes out at the same time. And many of the tax bills do not go to the property owner, it goes to the mortgage holder.
Yeah.
And such, so it goes to a third
Okay.
party. But you know, I think if there's something in the future that comes up, or if the law changes, right? They're looking at the laws right now, changing for putting advertisements in the paper when you have to post something. They are coming up with other ideas. So it's not to say something might not come up, but this is what we have at this time to do it again.
Other questions? Okay. The next budget is the capital budget. So, the first section is Public Works Vehicle Reserve. So, right now we just purchased a new cab and chassis and equipment, and,
Sharon, what tab is that under?
oh, that is under
Capital.
capital. Okay, everybody have it? So, our current budget balance, account balance is $233,797.99. We paid we're paying $244,440 for the cab chassis and equipment. So what we need to do is in this fiscal year, we need to budget an additional $15,000 to cover what we need to pay for that purchase when it's ready. And then the next line calls for budgeting $120,000. We work this different ways, but this is the final way we came up with that. To replace the 2011 truck, one-ton truck at the Public Works Department, to purchase a new 2026 F-450 4x4 with flatbed. The estimated cost is $105,000 to $120,000. Also needed to be purchased at the Public Works Department is the 2018 3/4 ton with plow in FY29 at an estimate of $75,000. Originally, we were going to budget 60 and 60 for the 2011 and fiscal years 27 and 8, and we were going to budget 3 years for these, replacing the 2018. But we moved those around with some other numbers in throughout here so that we can replace the 2011 right now. That truck is 15 years old. Right now it won't take a sticker, and there's several $1,000s of work that's needed on that truck. And it doesn't make any sense to put thousands of dollars into a 2011 when we were gonna replace it next year anyway, so we're looking to replace it this year. And next year in 28 and 29, we'll budget to replace the 2018. The next section is the Public Works Department Buildings and Grounds Reserve. So currently the balance is $53,312.81. So Scott obtained a bid to shingle the sand shed dome with a 50-year shingle life. It's a 2-year project. It's estimated at $105,000 to do the complete project. So this year, we can use $52,500 from the capital account, current balance, and then next year, we will budget the $52,500 to pay for year 2 of that project. We knew this was going to need needed to be done after, doing the work that we did on the dome. The next line we have put in for a pole barn. We were going to, budget starting in this year, in FY '27 for that, but we've moved it out to start budgeting in fiscal year '28 for that, so that we can use the 25 we originally thought of starting out this year, so that it'll help us out in what we need for replacing the 2011. So right now, they're currently working on the plans, excuse me, for a pole barn, and that project is estimated at $100,000.
But that, excuse me, that 25 for this year is,
We're not gonna budget 20. You've got an updated, don't look at your capital budget that you had in your book before. The one we revised is the one that was passed out tonight.
okay, so there's, nothing for 2027.
No, we're pushing that out to start budgeting for the pole barn in 2028. And there would be a balance, excuse me, of approximately $800 left in, after we pay for the first year project this year.
Can I ask, what is a pole barn?
Scott, you wanna describe it?
What is it?
Just basically like an open shed
Okay.
with, with a roof.
To store
Something we can
equipment.
start putting some of the stuff undercover.
I thought maybe it was telephone poles or something.
Like the
No,
plow
I got
equipment, it's an intent to try to put the snow plows under cover.
But they usually don't have sides, they're
Right.
historically held up with poles and then the roof.
Okay.
The next section is Public Works Department, Equipment Reserve. Currently, we have a balance of $108,160. So with that, we're looking to replace this year the 1977 tank truck in FY '27 for a used tank truck for flushing culverts and applying calcium to the roads. That's estimated at $35,000. We're also looking at replacing the 1972 hot box. That is used to keep the coal patch warm. That is an estimated $40,000. And we're looking at purchasing a pickup broom for the sweeper, for the backhoe in this year. That is an approximate cost of $25,000. After purchasing those three with what we have in that account, we would have a balance of approximately $8,100. And we are looking to put $25,000 in that account to start our reserve, going through for the next fiscal years for purchases needed.
Can you just go over again how we got to that balance of 108? Did we raise that money this past year?
No.
Or,
So that's a combination, excuse me, of several balances that was left over that we put together. In fiscal year '25, we had a budget of $125,000. And then, we consolidated accounts of $57,935. We budgeted $50,000 in FY '26, and right now we have the $108,160.
so that 125K from 2025, was it for this equipment all along, or did we
It was.
not spend something or something?
Some of them were for small balances that were left over in these same categories. And what the auditors recommended doing was consolidated. That's why we have a Public Works Department reserve account for vehicles, buildings and grounds, and equipment, because these were balances left and budgeted for equipment in the future for purchases. That now totaled 108. That's, in fiscal year '25, there was a $125,000 budget. And it was to replace, equipment when it needed to be replaced.
Just in general.
Yes,
So we're actually gonna buy this stuff.
yes,
That's why it's not budgeted for 27.
right.
Okay, so,
But we will put 25,000 in a reserve in the salmon color this year, even though we're going to spend, to buy these three, pieces of equipment. And we'll have a balance of approximately $8,100 in addition to the 25,000. And that will cover future equipment purchases that may be needed.
Do we have the sheet that you're looking at? Is that like a record of allocating and
No.
spending in capital? Okay.
So the next is on page 2, and that is transfer station buildings and grounds and equipment reserve. So right now, we have a balance of $65,397.19. That is money that is encumbered for this project, and what we will be doing is, the balance was encumbered to pave the tire and can overflow area. That was a result of the DEP inspection recommendation. It includes a 20-foot entrance and remaining travel area, and that will take pretty much the entire $65,397 in that account. The next line is budgeting $30,000 in fiscal year '27 and also in '28. That's to replace the backhoe with the used backhoe in fiscal year '28. That's approximately estimate at $60,000. That would be a joint purchase with Newry and Hanover, that we would get we would bill them for whatever the cost is at their rate, after it's purchased. The next section is rescue vehicle and equipment reserve for ambulance and cardiac monitor. So right now, we have $344,613. This year in fiscal year '27, we're looking at raising $100,000. That will be enough to purchase a 2017 ambulance and cot, and and I got all of these numbers from Dave with the list of what we have to replace. So in fiscal year '28, '29, '30, and '31, we would raise $125,000. In fiscal year '28, Dave will be looking at purchasing a cardiac monitor for $125,000, budgeting what we have, budgeting the $100,000 this year, and what we have in the balance, buying the ambulance and cot. We'll have just enough money to purchase the cardiac monitor in '28. And then in fiscal year '29 is when we would be looking at replacing the next ambulance and cot, which is estimated then at $370,000. So one of the things that the department heads and I will be looking at is going beyond fiscal year '27 in doing a more accurate assessment of the cost and what is needed in the years '28 and beyond that we need to budget. Dave is here if you have any questions on the ambulance.
so you're replacing the 17
Yes,
with what? A new one?
yes.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
And the new one is gonna cost $344.
$320.
And then the
Oh, yeah.
The
So-
cardiac monitor would be in fiscal year '28.
It'd be in '28,
Yes.
so this year, this fiscal year with 100.
We would have enough to buy the ambulance and the cot, the stretcher, at $320,000. And then it would leave enough in '28 to purchase the cardiac monitor.
So we haven't yet started then for the 2019 ambulance.
In '28 and '29, I plugged $125,000 in there, which would be $250,000 there. We have to look at the additional that we would need in '28 and '29 to get the ambulance there. Those are some of the numbers that we'll be working on. And we'll have more in line of an estimate, next year as to what those costs are going to be.
Are we looking at, what are we looking at for revenue of either trading the existing 17 in or selling it?
Dave?
All I can go by is the last time and we got less than 10 grand.
So the next question is, so have we looked at moving box, or is our box bad?
So the problem with that is you're now putting an old box on a new chassis, and with safety and electrical stuff changing,
Yeah.
like it doesn't really make sense to save a few bucks when you're just putting new stuff into old stuff.
What's the status on the current cot? Isn't that fairly new?
No, those were bought with grant money in 2013.
It's been that long.
Mm-hmm. We bought the cots before we had the power load systems and the ambulances. And the cots were purchased through grant money.
Can the 2019 ambulance hang on for a few years past its 10 years?
Fingers crossed, but the reason that we're suggesting it is that we've been trying to get back to the 10-year cycle that we used to have, and in the past, they used to be spaced out, and a body of individuals sitting in your chairs made the choice to continue to try and push them out, and then we ended up with this 2-year gap instead of a 5-year gap. So we're trying to budget to the plan, and then if something happens, then we'll react to it, but
It would be
that's
nice
the
to
reason.
get back on that revolving 5 years. It's not such a hard hit.
Well, that's why we're trying to budget every year some money. Like in the past, when we wanted to buy something, we had to go to the town and ask them for however much it was. And the equipment isn't getting any cheaper. Like they're pushing technology onto the industry, and you pay for it. Like, you can't buy the old monitors that they had when you and I first joined the service. Those aren't a thing anymore.
Okay,
And if it's medical grade, it's at least 4 times as
Oh, yeah.
expensive as what it would not be.
You say medical, and then you say public safety, and they say thank you very much when they stay.
Any other questions on that section? The next section, rescue buildings and grounds reserve. We have a balance in the rescue buildings and grounds reserve of $22,830, and we have a balance of $20,000 in a rescue land account. So there are several repairs that need to be done to the rescue building. with the roof, building repairs, and we would be looking at using the balance of the $22,830 that we have budgeted for those repairs to be done, in addition to budgeting in capital this year $10,000 to go along with the building repairs that need to be done. At some point, the $20,000 that is budgeted for land that is in the budget, we may want to look at that and see if you continue to put $20,000 or $10,000 away to purchase land. I'm not recommending that any additional money be budgeted for that right now. I think it's important to look at the repairs that need to be done to the building and the roof.
I think at some point it wouldn't be a bad idea to start, and I'm sure you're already having the conversation, the building ought to be replaced.
Move that building something.
It would be nice if Joe Sum could
Yeah.
give up next door, but that the building's been piecemealed way too many times.
Part of the reason for the roof issues.
The
We got
next,
taken advantage of in the beginning.
the next section is fire department vehicle reserve. Right now, we have $274,500 in the fire department vehicle reserve account. So, we're budgeting now to replace the 1998 tanker in 2036 and purchase a combination tanker and pumper. At today's cost, we're looking at $400,000 to $450,000, and in fiscal year 25 and 26, we budgeted $75,000 each year, which gives us the $150,000 out of this 274, and then we budgeted 75. We're looking at budgeting 75 in fiscal years 28, 29, 30, and actually 31. Mike is here, the chief. He can answer any questions on that.
Is the tanker gonna last another 10 years?
The next line is to replace.
Pat, you realize there's a 1951 truck that operates up there, right?
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
It's
I thought 98 was pretty bad.
That one sits beside the 1954, but it still operates.
Oh.
The next line is to replace the 2000 four-door utility truck in 2030. Today's cost is estimated at $125,000. So, we're looking at budgeting another 25 again this year going out. And in fiscal year 25 and 26, we budgeted $25,000 each of those years, which is also part of this $274,500. So we have basically $274,500 already to replace the the tanker and the four-door utility with a plan of budgeting the next coming years. The next line is at the top of page 3, under Fire Department Equipment Reserve. This is the line where we started budgeting for replacing the turnout gear with the PFAS requirements. So we would be looking at putting another $5,000 in this year, and I have a $5,000 going out for every year. Because Mike has explained several times that, you know, depending on the laws changing, you know, we really don't know when we're gonna be hit with having that, so that will cover the purchase of those requirements. The next section is fire department buildings and grounds. This is to cover the ongoing repairs to the building, the fire department building, that we all looked at last year from top to bottom. And several things in here were identified that had to be done. Mike is still scheduling right now the work that will come out of the 43,000, so that the majority of that, the idea is to have that completed by the end of June, but it carries over anyway, and we're looking to put another 20,000 in there, which probably isn't even gonna cover all of the work that's needed for the fire department building itself, after we got estimates and identified all of the problems that needed to be fixed. The next section is the co-block, town office buildings and grounds reserve. Right now, we have a balance of $172,371. We're looking to contract with an engineering service company to come in and assess the former citizen space with the town office space and what we're gonna do. I'm not recommending putting any more money into that account this year, and I haven't put any in the years going beyond this, because we have enough money to look at least doing that this year, and then from whatever the board decides, we can move on and decide what to do in the rest of the 5-year plan for that. The next section is the airport equipment, buildings and grounds reserve. Right now, we have a balance of $19,730. We would be looking at budgeting an additional $22,000 in that account this year. That $22,000 that we're looking at budgeting this year will pay for the cost that we have. We have an estimate of $20,650 to put in a generator, and $1,200 for the propane work that would need to be done at a cost of $21,850. The balance of the $19,730 that was budgeted this year will cover the items that were specified in the current budget to do, and that is to replace the 3-inch by 50-foot rubber fuel system, fill hose at a cost estimate of $3,100, replacing the LED lighting on the ramp estimated at $3,000, the tree cutting that is required by FAA, that is estimated at $5,000, replacing the 3-foot high swing gate that is closest to the terminal building to prevent people from crawling under or over to gain unlawful access to the airport. That is estimated at $2,000, and crack sealing the parking lot. We hope to do that at the same time that Public Works Department orders the crack fill, and we are looking at ordering so that we can do some crack filling at the fire department and the airport, as well as the crack sealing that is needed for the highway department. So by the end of June, there will not be a balance left in there, which is why we're looking at the $22,000 for the generator. Questions on any of that?
So that was the one when the CIP committee met, it was the 34 originally for the generator.
And I had put 30,000 in for that, but we have an estimate
Still
now.
don't understand the need. If an airport sits there for 5 days with ice on a runway and no one has an issue with it, why can't it sit there for a few hours without power?
Randy?
Somebody was misled. What it is all about is, somebody said it was a VFR airport and they come in when they want. It's not. It's an IFR airport. It's also a light flight airport. And the problem is that when people have an emergency, they'd like to find an airport. So this is going to light up a beacon and the runway mainly. It was in the original engineering, and for some strange reason it got pulled out because of overrun or something. But the conduit for the electrical work in the basement is already there, and it was all pre-planned, and it was recommended by the engineers and the FAA as a safety issue. And just a reminder, 4 o'clock in the winter is dark. It is pitch dark, and if somebody's out there and needs to find an airport, it's a bit of a challenge.
If the
It was
power's out,
in-
that means a storm in the area, that means someone's out there flying.
Well, you know,
They
that's,
have
that's
that,
the case,
right.
but it's not always in a storm. I mean, we've lost power many times, and it was engineered that way, so.
Many times. I think we haven't lost power 5 times over there in the last 5 years. You're on the line to Sunny River, aren't you?
The next section. Is on the next page. This is the town match for grants and improvements reserve. We currently have a Maine DOT sidewalk project. The balance that we have in that account is $150,375. Maine DOT, that's a Route 2 sidewalk and 400 feet of sidewalk from Parkway Road on Route 26 to Lincoln Street. Project extended to 8/31/2027. The select board approved the project increase in October of 2024. That project originally started out at $110,000, and because the state kept moving it back, of course the cost kept increasing. And then in October of 2024, we received paperwork that the town share had now increased to $230,600 from the $110,000. So, we have to pay $130,300, which is due 5/13/26, from the $150,375.47. The balance after we pay that will be $20,075. Then we have payments due in fiscal year 27. We have $60,300 due September 30th of 26, and $40,000 due May 26th of 2027. So in order to meet those payment due dates, we need to budget $80,225 in fiscal year 27. That will leave us a balance of $20,075 balance, and that balance is to make 2 payments in FY 27. So the balance and the $80,000 will complete what we owe the state for this project to meet these due dates. Tried to explain that as carefully as I could.
Unfortunately, we don't have a choice,
No, that's correct,
but
really.
that being said, do we have an actual, are they actually gonna do it this year?
It is scheduled right now to be done in August of 2027. I haven't received another date yet.
So that price is gonna increase because it's going to.
Well, if it increases, it has to come back to the Board of Selectmen. Scott?
Right.
They plan on bidding that job this fall, and for construction to start next spring. Is what
So
was
that's
their
why
last
they're
words to
using
us.
the 8/31/27 date. It's in the project
So,
schedule.
Yeah.
In addition to that, the fact that we're stuck with this, we also are gonna have to pay for plowing on it. So our budget for that's gonna go up. We're gonna have to pay for repairs and lighting bills on it. So I'm just saying it out there, but we're stuck with this.
Yeah, and we do know that.
So the increase there is not a straight up construction or engineering increase. There's also been an addition to the scope of work, and that's what they added, that was added this year, is if you have a sidewalk that goes along 26 and 2, and we have the Lincoln Street sidewalk, the light bulb went off, and it's like, okay, let's connect, and so I think it's about 400
400 feet.
Something like that.
feet, so there's an additional scope that is added to the increase as well.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this for others.
Yeah.
But that is also gonna bring Scott's regular budget up,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
wear and tear on the
And
machines,
plowing, yeah.
and plowing and everything else. It
Mhm.
just,
At least it's on the way.
Huh?
At least it's on the way. Oh, I'm
So,
not being
On the way
sarcastic.
to and from.
Yeah, that's not being sarcastic, at least
Yeah.
you don't have to drive the other side of town to get it.
Yeah.
Yes.
so the next section is, current year we added the airport FAA main DOT grant reserve account. So, right now, we have a balance of $85,036 from what we budgeted, current year, which was around 94,500, I think. And, so we pay, the town pays 2.5% of any of the FAA projects. The state pays 2.5% and FAA pays 95% of whatever projects we do. So in this current year, coming up fiscal year '27, we're going to have the apron project. And the 12,500 is our 2.5% share that we're going to have to pay for that project. The balance that we have is going to be paying the various FAA commitments that we have in the fiscal year '26 budget. Any explanations needed on any of that? The next section is miscellaneous town projects, equipment and property improvements reserve. So as of now, we have $30,000 in the basketball court account, and that is to resurface the basketball court. In the last two fiscal years, we budgeted $15,000. The cost now is $42,000. So we're not looking at doing that project. In order to do that project, we need another $12,000. So I'm not recommending we put any money in the reserve, in the capital account this year. I'm recommending it go in fiscal year '28, because it's not gonna be done now anyway. And one of the things that I looked at when I did the capital is decreasing it from the 1.2 million that we had budgeted in current year, which I did by over $200,000. So, that's my plan on the basketball court. Nate did recommend budgeting this year and next year, but I see no reason why we can't budget it all in '28. The next,
So just I guess it's just FYI, how long has that project been? So has money been set aside since FY '25?
in FY '25, there was 15,000, and in FY '26, current budget, there was 15,000, so now we have 30,000. It can't be done this year anyway, because you can't get on the schedule this year, for one thing. And, between Scott and Nate, they don't feel that the resurfacing is needed this year. So that's part of the reason to wait until fiscal year '28 and assess it then. But in order to, there aren't that many companies that do this work, and to get on their schedules, you need to really schedule it far in advance to do that.
No, I'm just recognizing that it's potentially 3 years after the initial request that the project may get done. That's all, just recognizing that. I thought maybe we could have put in if it took a year, that maybe this year or last year we may have been able to put in, but I get it. I'm just acknowledging that it's gonna be at least 3 years before this project's done.
Right, okay. The next is a new request that Nate had this year, and that was for Davis Park. He asked to have a shade structure installed and fence adjustments made in fiscal year '27. I'm recommending that this project not even be looked at to be done until fiscal year '28. There, if that shade, it's to put over it's a shade structure to put over the sandbox. Scott has to look at things this year when the snow goes, because there's a gate there that they may need to move it based on the type of shade structure Nate is looking at putting in. But also I had Courtney and Emma look at this project and the area it's going in, and this would require state permitting from, because it's in a shoreland zone area. So this is a project that most likely would not be able to happen this year in fiscal year '27 anyway, because of the permitting that would need to be done. And if Scott does have to move the fence, then maybe another area needs to be looked at for some type of shade structure there. So in looking at priorities to budget in the capital account, I moved that until 2028, until there can be more information brought back on this project in what needs to be done.
And so the 8 probably reflects an increase in cost from his original 6.
In the first budget that Nate gave me, he was looking at $6,000 because he didn't include all of the installation costs and everything. He only looked at the structure cost. When he gave me his second budget, it was for $8,000, and he included the installation and the shade itself. So it wasn't an increase in putting it in 28, it was the whole cost,
Project.
the project, materials and labor.
Why is that needed?
It's not something that I classify as a priority when I look at other capital projects. And if it is needed, then the argument should be, not the argument, but the presentation should show why it's needed and that it's ready to go, not that you have to do all of these different steps to get this done. And we don't have that information right now, so.
My other question is, and it's not the best time for it, but the design that he was looking at, I mean, once you put anything in there, we already know we get enough damage from flooding.
So that's why Scott needs to look at some of these things. And the way I'm looking at it too is if it requires this gate to be moved, then the structure needs to be put someplace else. So there's too many unknowns on this project right now, so that's why I'm not recommending anything be budgeted this year. The next line is town office and equipment reserve. Right now, there's a balance of $16,005 in that account. I'm looking to put another 5 in this year. The majority of this balance will have all been used by the end of this fiscal year. This reserve allows to replace computers as needed. The next line is on the next page, and it is the revaluation reserve. So we had a balance of $260,000. We've been putting money aside every year because we knew this was coming. And we paid the first payment. The project has all been set. The total cost of the reval is going to be $343,900. And we've made the first payment in fiscal year '26 of $47,333. So right now, we actually have a balance of $212,667. And looking at budgeting $22,005 for the next 3 years should take us to the end of when we have to pay the final payment. And if this has to be adjusted in 28, 29, or 30, we can do that. But this right here would put us where we need to be and paying for the full reval. The next section is records restoration. Right now, we have $22,011. This reserve was started before me, so I don't know how long. I can look at the sheet that the auditors put together for us when this started. Right now, the town clerk is researching the restoration options from the different companies that can offer ways to restore our programs. We discovered this past year that a lot of our records that had to be retained for years, we had to throw out because of the mold, so that is a very, that's a project that we do need to look at. But for right now, I'm not looking at budgeting anything in this year. And once Tracy has all of her information from the companies that do offer restoration, then we'll start budgeting next year. But right now, we do have $22,000 in that account. The next line is cemetery restorations. We have a balance of $4,566 in the reserve cemetery account right now, where we restore the stones on the cemetery, in the cemeteries, and where we clean the stones in the cemetery. We have a bank account balance that I had moved to one of our sub-accounts where we gain a lot of interest, a lot more interest than what we were gaining. That balance is $8,797. That amount started in 2011. And money was put in that account when people bought lots in the cemeteries, in the various cemeteries. And from what we could tell in researching back to 2011, other cemetery funds were put in there. So we would be looking, right now we have a cemetery proposal from the company that does our maintenance work. That proposal is $41,950. That would be a 2-year project to be done in the Woodland Cemetery account. The Woodland Cemetery. And so the first section would be done this year, which would be $15,500. The second section would be done next year in fiscal year '28. That would be $27,450. That totals to $41,950. So if we use the balance in the reserve account of the $45,66 plus the balance in the cemetery sub-account and budget $15,000, that would give us enough to do the first part of the Woodland Cemetery Restoration Project. And then in fiscal year '28, we would budget 15 and then going 10 beyond there. It's every year what he does is he estimates this repair work that needs to be done in the upcoming years and tells us that, and then that's what how they budgeted to do the cemetery restoration going forward. The comprehensive plan update has been added. We're estimating this is going to be a 2-year project. The selectmen have met with AvCog, who would be overseeing the project to do the update to the comprehensive plan. It would be $35,000 that they would charge. I've added an additional $5,000 for incidentals that we may need for cost, in addition to what we have to pay AvCog. If this money is approved at town meeting, then the select board would move forward with hiring AvCog to oversee the comprehensive plan update. The selectmen have had a workshop on this, and right now we're currently advertising for members to be on the comp plan committee. They have the select board have met several times in drafting the application and what they're looking for individuals to serve on this committee, and have done quite a thorough job in doing this. So we're looking to add $40,000 in this year's capital budget for that. below shows the roads, sidewalks, drainage, and improvement section that the Public Works Department would be doing. And it includes this year, $367,000. And the roads are all listed that Scott is looking at doing. He can answer any questions if you have it, but there are several roads with the sections, the length, the treatment that would be done, and the estimated cost. Then if we look on the next page, it's the sidewalk maintenance. Scott is estimating $16,000 for Broad Street. That would include a 6-foot by 240-foot by 6-inch section of concrete that would be done. The next section are Main Street projects. We've listed them by the streets. And if they are spelled wrong, that is my fault and Scott's fault, because that, to the best of our knowledge, that's how we think they're spelled. It tells you the footage that would be done, and that's estimated at 9,000. The next section is for Church Street, which is a total of 66 feet. Main Street is a total of 370 feet. And between Main Street and Church Street, it's the $9,000. So that would be $25,000 for sidewalk maintenance this coming year. And then in the drainage maintenance, Scott's looking for $10,000 to address that issue. And so the total capital this year would be $1,049,225. In current year fiscal 26, we budgeted $1,283,850. That would be a decrease of $234,625 to reduce that by 22.36%. The goal was to try to keep this under what we budgeted this current year. Questions on anything there?
Sharon, can we go back to the cemetery? The Woodland is the one that we ended up getting just a few years ago, correct?
Yes.
And I thought that there was, and how many others do we own?
5 large ones, and there's 4 or 5 small ones.
Really? But I thought there was some sort of, bonds or something that came with Woodland?
There was amount of money that in the past 5 years, the town has accepted 3 private cemeteries to be town cemeteries. With the other 2, there was a very small amount that was given to the town in addition to the town accepting those 2 smaller cemeteries. With the Woodland Cemetery, it was a much larger amount. That amount of money went into the general fund. And so it was actually used, if you will, to pay for other cemetery projects. That was for the Woodland Cemetery. And so what we're looking at doing now is using the remainder of these balances and budgeting $15,000. You may remember in fiscal year 23, the auditors found that we were negative by $65,000 in the cemetery account. That was when the auditors came and reviewed that audit with us when we were at the fire station. Well, to the surprise of those here, it was like, how did we have $65,000 negative? It was because the town spent the money to do those projects instead of, they didn't have the money to do them. They spent it out of their account, which made it 65 negative, and the money that was taken in was actually put into general fund. So if you want to think of it that way, it balanced out that way. And then in fiscal year 26 at town meeting, we voted to offset that $65,000 balance that we were negative so that we could wipe that clean. So as far as being negative right now, we're not negative because it took a couple of years to get that straightened out. And it is a confusing thing. So we don't have the additional funds that came in from Woodland, but because it did go in the general fund, but this project here is for the Woodland Cemetery. And so, that's where we are with that.
And on the roads, you're obviously comfortable with delaying the paving on the Innervale piece, Old Hill.
Yes, I pulled Paradise, which was last year's, pushed it off, pulled it into this year, moved Intervale off to next year. Intervale will actually group up with like two pieces of the Intervale and Old Hill. Which will,
Next year.
yeah.
Okay.
What was the, do you remember what the shingle life was on the dome originally?
I don't know, Dome was built in '94.
So you should have been at least a 25-year shingle life.
You would think so.
That would be about 30 years then, right?
20, 30.
Southwest face of the dome is what's taking the beating. No, northeast side is, that's why we proposed doing it in 2 years. They said the shingles may not match perfectly, but, it's the dome.
Does the current backhoe have a quick connect on it?
Yes. You talking the backhoe part or the bucket?
Or the bucket parts of for the sweeper?
Yes, it has the third function, I know it, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, is that bucket that's on there fixed, or is it?
No, it's detachable.
And then what's the time frame for replacing that unit? The current backhoe that you have?
Capital plan for that stuff was 20 years. That's a what, 19? I think that
Yeah.
machine is.
I'm just thinking of the long term of the one at the transfer station.
Yeah,
Of bouncing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. The backhoe works at the transfer station, but that's not what a backhoe is designed for.
Yeah.
We just had the whole back end all repinned and bushed. We almost lost the backhoe boom into the can. That's how bad it got to me that point. I don't know, you move ours over there, is it worth moving ours over there, buying a new one? Or is it just worth buying a newer machine and
What's a better piece of equipment for that?
I don't know the true answer to that question. We've tried the loader in the past. The loader, with a block on the bucket, wasn't ideal. We do get a better compaction rate with the backhoe, but, and again, that's not when it's, if you had an excavator there, would it be easier on that machine? I don't know for sure. But the backhoe is versatile too, because we bought a pusher this year for it, snow scoop, which actually makes it a lot easier to plow around the new scale and stuff too. You couldn't necessarily do that if you had an excavator there.
True.
The front bucket on the backhoe gives the option for, that's how we dispose of the shingles right now. Dump in the bin and then pick them up in the front bucket.
So should we add, for the mini loader for the airport into this capital budget for this year or not? No. I know you don't, I know it's not, but we talked earlier about
Mhm.
possibly adding it.
I'm not looking at adding anything else to the capital budget. I mean, you can recommend, you know, your reasons why, but, I think we need to decide what we're gonna do in the future.
If I may, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what the whole upgrade is gonna look like when the airport goes through its upgrade. You know, we might have to reevaluate our whole strategy over there once all of that is.
That's the 9 additional hangars that's happening this summer.
Okay.
So that build-up happens this summer, so there has to be a snow removal plan specifically for that, and they haven't decided, we haven't decided how we're gonna handle that yet. So that brings in 9 new hangars, and yeah.
Yeah, that's what I had on my list too.
It's,
To bring it up.
we don't know yet is the answer.
Okay. Yeah, I had the shade, which
We're hoping the current equipment is adequate to do what we need to, but, I mean, until we have to start working on it, we don't really know.
Could you just schedule no snow next year?
I'd be okay with that.
And
Unless we'll lose a lot of money.
Have you got a number I can call?
We still got a long ways to go.
And from the committee meeting that we had, so I have the shade, it's in there, we just talked about the airport. Was there anything with the warming hut? I'm not clear in my notes, or was the warming hut that was for the,
There's nothing in the capital for the warming hut. The
Yeah.
recreation committee was looking at fundraising money
fundraising money for that?
for
Okay.
that.
All right. And then the last thing we had was to look to put in some money, maybe like 10K for the town manager search. For working on that transition next spring. There, so I didn't see that in here.
What was that last one?
Town manager search, put money in for the town manager search.
Why are we doing that? She's got a 2-year contract.
Well, that's in October 2027. I would think that we would wanna look next spring to come up with a plan, come up with a transition plan. See what
But we
we're
never put money in for search of a town manager before.
Well, we didn't do it at the most recent one because we didn't know what was going to happen. Here we have time to plan. Just try to give,
I heard her say she was gonna stick around another 10, so we don't need to worry.
and she might, well then, here we go.
Keep the names down.
But I mean, I think did talk about like maybe having, I don't know if this would fit in, but maybe sharing training somebody, so I don't know if that's like exactly what you're saying, but that would be an additional cost.
Yeah, that would be in with like the wages, but we would need to start that training, we would need to start thinking of how would we wanna do it, who we would want to have that kind of crossover. That's what I'm saying.
So when the capital improvement committee met, there were a lot of options that were mentioned by the capital improvement committee about putting items in the capital budget. I didn't include any of them because there were no votes taken on, they were just ideas. So none of those have been included in this capital budget.
Well, there was the shade, and you have that in the budget, but for next year, it was just the town manager search piece for 10,000. Give resources to the select board by the end of next fiscal year to come up with a plan. But it sounds like you don't want to include it.
I don't recommend including it, but it's not my, if you wanna include it, you can. I would take it that you are looking to have another town manager hired by adding 10,000, but, that's your choice.
Well, I think it's responsible to come up with a plan, and like you said, we want to train and such. Is that this takes us to the end of June. 2027, and then October comes pretty fast. It's an opportunity, just didn't want to miss it, that's all.
I think that's a good idea.
Has it ever been included in the budget before? For any management that we need to hire?
If you have, well, I don't know, who else you looking to hire?
No, what I'm saying is, I've been through 3 managers myself, and I don't remember this being in the budget, that we needed to have it in the budget to train.
No, it's not for training, it's to come up with a plan of doing the transition for when we have to have a new town manager.
I think we worry about that at
I
that
think
point,
Michelle's
taking
looking
it
at
out of the,
hiring a company to come in
do a
and
special
oversee the
meeting
process.
and pull it out if we need to.
Yeah, I don't know how long like the hiring process can take, a few months.
It's hard to tell, whether we have a firm, or whether we place ads, or,
So in
That's all.
defense of what's being said, I guess, we're sitting here talking about, I'm not gonna be here. So you're looking at replacing me. I have no intentions of leaving unless I'm fired.
And we just signed a
So-
2-year contract, right?
Yeah, so
agreement in
that's,
October of 2027. This lets the board start to plan with monies all the way up to June 2027. I just stating my,
I understand.
trying to be responsible for
I
the
understand what you're saying,
board.
but I don't think we need to worry about that right now. I think that, there's a special town meeting with that too.
What are the costs, is that, and I think that's what maybe Kyle was getting at, would it be hiring a firm or something to oversee that process?
It could be.
I'm just wondering,
It could
because
be. I mean, it would be a process that the board would decide on at that time. And by putting funds in, it gives that flexibility to the board to have something to work with before the time comes when they have to do something.
Now, if we put funds in something like that and it doesn't get used, and this is kind of just a general question for budgeting in this case, do we have to have a special town meeting if we want to reallocate those funds somewhere else?
If it's put in for capital here, and if it doesn't get used, and it doesn't think that it's gonna get used in the future,
Yeah.
yeah, you would, that's what the town voted on, that this amount of money is gonna go to this project.
Right, so if,
you have to, yeah.
let's say we hired Sharon got that in 3 years, we hired a new person, and it only cost, $5,000, and we had an extra 5 or 10 sitting there, we could make the decision to reallocate
Yeah,
that.
it could lapse
Or you could leave
into
it there.
the, or, yeah,
Okay, that was just a question,
yeah.
reasonable question.
are there any other questions on the capital account? So, the next thing I had on is if there's any questions that you have on any of the other budgets that have been presented, and do you want to move forward with voting tonight, or do you want to find another night to come back and vote?
I'm flexible.
Mike, just a question. Do you want
Tonight
to vote
or another
tonight
night?
or come back?
I want to be done. I've got enough meetings.
You can make a motion.
So, three other pieces. Debt, there's no debt.
No, we have no doubt, just the sewer.
Excuse me. And then, revenue, do you have, when you're looking at the sheet that's been provided behind departments for revenue, or do you have another worksheet that
I
has?
don't have anything for revenue, because
Okay.
that's not voted on. Yeah, it's
The
just,
revenue tab?
it's just
It's
the,
just the same.
in the revenue tab, it shows you revenue to date, and then, the revenue sheet that's behind every department budget that we've taken in so far.
But we do, it is a warrant article, and we do, make recommendations or not recommendations.
That's never been done since I've been here.
But it is a warrant article.
It is a warrant article, and I usually look at that right before I do the warrant to see what has come in and make the recommendation on the warrant, what we're going to look for anticipated revenue. 'Cause that's all it is estimating the revenue,
That's correct.
but it's not
It does,
discussed here.
it does come in, at the commitment of taxes to offset it, so it's nice to have what that number might be about. Undesignated, excuse me, there we go. We usually, look to take an amount from the undesignated fund to apply to reduce taxes, any, estimate or any recommendation?
500,000 this year.
So it'll be another piece for us to work on. Do a recommendation on. Okay. 8:05, you guys wanna go and see how much we can get done?
See if you don't get it done.
There are two, did you wanna go over the new rec department budget?
So, also in your packet, what I gave you was a copy of the first, proposed budget that I received from Recreation when I met with Nate on February 11th. That is in your packet. And, I was going to give you this last week when we met. You have in your, binder the second proposal, which included, it included part-time positions. So in the first budget that Nate gave me, it was to add additional staffing to cover field house, open gym, and ice rink warming hot staffing for $7,500. And when I reviewed this budget with Nate, I agreed and on his recommendation on having additional staffing for the field house project for open gym and the warming hot staffing, because he was currently using volunteers to do that. And then he later came back and he decided that he wanted to have two part-time positions. One would be for a second recreation director's position, part-time recreation director's position, and the other one would be for a ice rink monitor, to have that paid. Now, I spoke briefly on this last week. I do not recommend part-time positions being hired for the recreation department. At this time, what I recommend is that be looked at and evaluated this year to see if we need to be hiring one full-time recreation director rather than two part-time recreation directors. I feel that the Department of Labor would not rule very likely on that, in having two part-time recreation directors to avoid paying benefits. The idea of having two part-time recreation directors is not a logical thing for several reasons. We do not have a location for the recreation department. We have one recreation director now that works from wherever, from home. And then a second one would be doing the same thing. And that second recreation director is to handle the field house project. One of the things I had talked to Nate about months ago was the need for a full-time recreation director. And we discussed that. The other thing is the space out back where the citizen space used to be. That would make also another option for using that space would be the recreation department put there. I walked through that with Nate and we looked at all the office spacing in there that could be used as storage because we have no storage for the recreation equipment as well. When you're looking at a part-time position for the warming hut at $18 an hour, the first time I saw that was on March 4th when he came to the select board and presented his plan to have these two part-time positions, which I had no knowledge of and no discussion about at all. And for something like that, you would not even hire someone to do that for any more than minimum wage. And I definitely would not support hiring a second part-time recreation director paying $25 an hour, more than the current recreation director is paying for doing less the work. This is something that has to be identified and planned out, and it has not been. Another issue that I have with this is, the first time I heard about this was in March. And when it was presented as a plan that I knew nothing about, that plan should have been brought to me long before it was. And when I met with Nate on the 11th of February to do his budget, there was no discussion at all of any part-time positions. It was to hire, it was to include $7,500 in the budget that would cover the additional staffing for the open gym and ice rink warming hut staffing. I thought that that was agreeable. It has nothing to do with the part-time position being an increase of $15,000 extra to having the field house staffing. Today I called Gould Academy and I talked to the lady over there that schedules the gym. There is no commitment that we can have that we are guaranteed any set time to use that area. Right now, the rec department is using it from 2:30 to 5:30 or 2:30 to 7:30, and on Monday through Friday. There are other groups that use this, and yes, there are other groups that use the field house property on Saturday mornings and other days of the week. I object to the fact that this isn't the place to identify any of this, but this is a unthought of plan that has not been brought to management to decide what to do, and I'm recommending that. And I will be recommending this to the board on Wednesday night, that these two part-time positions not be put into effect, that the $7,500 is used for the additional staffing for the field house project and the warming hut, and that this coming year, we look at options for, if we need a full-time recreation director, I will fully support that, but I will not support two part-time recreation director jobs where they have no home. So that's where I am with this. And if you wanna wait to vote on the recreation budget after the select board review this on Wednesday night, you can do that, but that's where I'm coming from on these two part-time positions.
All right. We'll start at the, beginning.
Summary sheet.
What are we doing now?
We're
We're
gonna,
gonna go down through there?
yes.
Then why are we voting on the whole, you've got the record, we're gonna take that out of here, right?
So I put on the summary sheet when I adjusted it to show in the green the The only difference from the green and the yellow is the rec budget with a staffing versus part-time.
So what are we voting
Positions.
on, the green or the yellow?
You're voting on the yellow.
Well,
It's it's the yellow, but the green is my recommendation for the recreation.
But we could vote on either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
okay.
can vote on whichever you want.
Right.
But otherwise, that's the only two numbers that are different between the.
Those are the only two numbers that are different.
In the yellow column and in the green column.
It's probably at the very.
I almost think for the recreation department and also the administration, that we wait to vote on those until we speak about the job descriptions and the wages. That would be my suggestion. Meanwhile, you wanna start with, there's the, oops, do I have a, no. There's a
That's the-
329. There's a 329, it has a listing of all the departments. You can start at the beginning, is that what you would like to do, or are there any other comments here?
So we will do administration.
I would like to do the administration and the recreation after the select board meets.
Are we allowed to split, that we vote and then you vote? Or do we have to do it the same night, the same time?
I think it works uniformly at the same
Okay.
time. You all hear the same information, you all have that. Maybe we might have time for it, I don't know, this is just my opinion, but maybe we start with the protection, animal control, and we start with those, and go down.
So,
If we started with the protection,
so everything, should I make, like, if we're accepting,
Yeah.
you make a motion to, all right.
to recommend,
All right, I make a motion that the select board recommends $10,904 for animal control protection.
Second.
are there any further questions on this? Hearing none, all those in favor? And the motion carries unanimous.
Budget committee?
Make a motion, we approve the 10,904.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Police, protection police,
I'll make a motion that we approve $695,950 for police protection.
second. Any questions?
Yeah, just make comments?
Yep.
I'm gonna vote against it for the same reasons I've expressed for the last 2 years. In particular, we lose all negotiating power. Not that we have a ton to begin with, but we lose whatever negotiating power we do as soon as we, as a town, allocate the money. So that's why I'll vote against it. That's all.
Any other comments?
I'll probably do the same.
I would like it to be less the 4th patrolman, so just 3 patrolmen.
So do you have a dollar amount that you'd like to put in?
I don't have that, cause I didn't figure it out, but it's whatever the
The one,
individual
yeah,
is for the patrolman.
it's one,
We have to use both.
So I can
They
do
have
that
two numbers.
calculation.
You know what, let's just vote it with the amount that there is, go ahead.
All right, so no amendment. Any other comments? All those in favor of recommending? All those, were you up or down?
Down.
All those opposed? All right, and so the motion doesn't carry, it's 1 yay and 4 nays.
Budget committee?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve $550,000 for the police.
Do you have a second?
Where did you come up with the 550?
I don't know. I'm just thinking that it's at least one officer, maybe it's,
No, well, it's really easy, you just look at what the total officer
Yeah.
was, which was like 119 or something like
Alright.
that under their budget.
Well, there's two different numbers for each half of the year, so you'd have to take an average.
Yeah, you'd have to.
But the per deputy, I think, is the same. Is it
Not
not?
It's the
for
same.
Ju- Not
Yeah.
for the 6 months, right, there's two different numbers for July to December and January to June. So you just take an average.
We have a motion at 6:50, a second?
No, I think she, did you
I
say
think we're gonna do
550?
You said 550.
yeah, we're gonna,
Say 550.
but we'll figure out an exact.
550 is no second.
Do I have another motion?
I'll make a motion that we, $695,950.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed?
Okay, just that, how many? How many
So
was in favor?
3 to 3.
3 to 3, okay, thank you.
So it passes.
Can't do it tonight.
No, it passes. It's not voted negative.
Yeah,
If it's to tie, the motion fails.
That's right.
right.
Tie, the motion fails, so there's essentially recommend, select board and budget committee recommend 0.
No, but so we can't, yeah, we should, so it's too late to come up with a different number, right?
We ought to move on with this,
Yeah.
we're gonna be
You
here
could.
till 9 o'clock if we don't.
You're gonna start negotiations, that isn't a meeting, huh?
Yeah.
It's just, we don't recommend this, we just don't recommend it, that's all.
That's all.
Moving on.
And now we're to the fire department.
Make a motion that we approve $324,524 for the fire department protection.
Second.
Any comments? All those in favor?
Budget committee?
Motion passes
Make a
unanimously.
motion that we approve the $324,524. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Protection, ambulance, is that protection? Ambulance department.
I make a motion that we approve $652,826 for the ambulance department.
Second,
Questions? All those in favor? Motion
Budget
passes
committee?
unanimous.
Same motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Public safety, solid waste, no, it must just be solid waste.
It's solid waste, the headline is public safety.
I make a motion that we approve $567,271 for solid waste.
second,
All those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee?
Same motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Solid waste curbside and dumpster pickup.
I make a motion that we approve $300,000 for curbside and dumpster pickup, solid waste.
I'll second.
Questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes 4-1.
Budget committee?
Same motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? 5 in favor, opposed? 1 opposed.
No, I thought you, oh.
I got you. Okay.
So it's a 5-1. Okay.
I thought you were looking at me.
Public safety, it's Public Works Department, right?
Yes.
Public safety.
I make a motion that we accept, recommend $809,897 for Public Works.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee,
Same
motion.
Second?
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Municipal facilities, town office,
I make a motion that we approve, or recommend $34,598 for the town office municipal facilities.
Second.
all those in favor? Motion passes
Budget
unanimous.
committee,
Same motion.
Second.
discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Municipal facilities, fire station,
I make a motion that we recommend $29,090 for the fire station municipal facilities.
Second.
all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee,
Same motion.
Second.
discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Municipal facilities, town garage,
I make a motion that we recommend $19,400 for the town garage municipal facilities.
Second.
all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee,
Same motion?
Second.
discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Municipal facilities, ambulance building,
I make a motion that we recommend $18,780 for the ambulance building.
Second.
all those in favor?
Budget
Motion passes
committee?
Same
unanimous.
motion. Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
We're down to general assistance,
I make a motion that we recommend $4,000 for general assistance.
Second.
all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee?
Same motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Recreation, I think we'll skip over that one, like administration for now. If we have time, we can come back, otherwise we can wait to have the selectmen's meeting and meet after that. Next line is Angeline Park,
I make a motion that we recommend $9,539 for Angeline Park.
Second.
all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee?
Same motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Fountain Park Cemetery,
I make a motion that we recommend $21,150 for Fountain Parks and Cemetery.
Second.
all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee?
Same motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous?
Now we come to contributions, local. We've already voted on this, except for we had one new one come in. And I have a little bit of help here. That was, which one was it that came
The
in?
AFCR.
The new one was,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other was outside agency.
Outside agency.
So, yeah, contribution local, which is the nonprofits, so if you're in your,
There's
You
no
go
difference
under
between the first and
agencies.
second draft.
For local. Yeah, I think the 59
There should
is
be.
right, because it includes the AFC.
no, it doesn't. So, that, if we wanted to, put in for age-friendly, that's $1,200. That would increase that 59,100. to 6,300. If you wanted to do that.
Who's it for?
This is for the Age-Friendly Community Initiative.
I'll make a motion that we recommend 6,300 for, is that the right number?
60,300.
63,300?
Yeah.
Is that the number? Thank you. 63,300 for local contributions.
Wait a minute, what was
No, it's
the,
not 300.
not 63.
60,000.
You're gonna add
60.
1,200 to it.
Oh, yeah, that's not right. It's 60,300.
60,300.
Yeah.
Yeah. I corrected
That.
myself the second time, didn't say it loud enough.
I'll second that.
Any questions? All those in favor? The motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee.
Same.
Yeah, for now. Second.
Discussion?
When are we gonna have a conversation about CAT?
Yeah, donation through taxation isn't cool.
We gotta get a handle on it.
You got a $2,500 tax bill, that's $200 a month for somebody that's on Social Security. You know, all these things are nice, but sooner or later, you gotta say enough.
That's probably something we, as a board, need to address.
Yeah.
I did give you the policies, sample policies for you to start looking at.
Yeah.
It's from both.
Okay, have you?
Well,
No, not in there, in
no.
your last
The
one.
meeting's
Oh,
back,
Yeah.
yeah,
Anyway.
we'll add it later.
Both sides should be having that conversation.
Say again?
What are we voting on?
60,300, voting on line 1670.
For local.
I'll make a motion, if we made a you've already done
And
it.
No,
next, yeah, and actually.
We made a motion, somebody made a motion same as a
Rose did.
select board of 60,300, which included the age friendly.
And then Jim seconded that.
I seconded it just so we could have our discussion.
Right.
And so, and for clarifications, I might have wanted to take just the 1,200 to add, because we already approved the first
That's true.
1, 2, 3, 4,
I
5.
don't remember.
We voted on that.
Well, I can amend that motion, right?
Sure.
No,
I'm gonna
we
amend the
don't.
motion.
No, we're gonna vote on it.
Yes, huh?
Yeah.
We need to vote on the motion that's on the floor.
No,
You have to vote.
I can amend the motion because it hasn't been voted on. And then after I amend the motion, we vote on that and then we go back to the original motion,
Okay,
Or
you
we
go ahead.
just received ours.
okay?
What's your pleasure?
My pleasure is that we don't go 60,000, we go 59,1. Which is what she has in her first draft here.
Have a second?
Because they didn't get the requested on time.
I'll second it.
Okay, now we have to vote on both motions.
Now we have a discussion on that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you vote on the amendment,
yeah.
and then you vote on the
There's a
motion.
discussion on the amendment, and then vote on the amendment.
So the amendment is to go back to $59,100. Any further discussion?
True, they did not get it in on time.
They didn't, they brought it in last week.
Any further discussion?
March 16th.
All those in favor of
Yeah, I did have that.
59,1. Now what will we do?
We have to vote on the original motion and vote it down.
Okay, so the original motion was for 60,000
Correct.
to 300.
Yep.
We had a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Okay.
All those
I mean,
opposed? We got it.
Opposed.
59-1.
Now we're come to the social agencies, which we did not take up. We had been informed that there's several new ones. You might want to turn to your page.
Yeah,
Agencies.
which one are we looking at, 1675?
Yeah.
Yes. under
Well, we
agencies.
take that up when we take up the 1610 and the 1110.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
You said we haven't discussed this?
The agencies have been, the information has been presented to us, but we have not taken votes on it. We had taken votes on the others individually, Want to do individually here again?
Yeah,
Or-
I
yeah,
don't, I think
yeah,
so,
okay.
but this is.
Mhm.
Can you get that? And
Yes, that's my motion.
Yeah, start right in.
Yeah.
All right, I make a motion that we recommend $750 for the Cancer Center of Western Maine.
Second.
Any questions, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
I could have a motion for the whole thing
Go for it.
if you wanted to try.
For the rest of them?
Yeah.
Just do the, yeah, you wanna try, yeah.
So I was thinking, so making a motion, I can subtract the 750 that we just voted on, but the motion would be for about 10,000, let me just do that real quick. So the motion would be for 10,212, and it would be to approve all of the groups that we granted last year and to cap at 4,000. So it would be 750 for Cancer Center of Western Maine, 2,212 for Andwell Health Partners, 4,000 for Senior Plus, and 4,000 for Community Concepts.
I'll second that.
So, nothing for the Kennebec Behavioral Health,
No, because they're new.
public,
And nothing,
PBS, nothing there,
yep, also new, and nothing for Life Flight.
and Life Flight, nothing for Life Flight. And then Community Concepts, capping them at 4,000.
Yep.
4,000, 4,000, 2,212, and we already did the 750, did you take the 750 out?
Yeah, so the total of that line would be 10,962, but minus the 750 that we just did, it would be 10,212.
Are we taking the 750 out?
Just because we already
already
voted
voted.
on it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Well, why don't we put it in and do it as one, yeah,
We
do
can
it
do
as a revised.
Yeah.
10962,
Yeah.
Yep, 10,962.
so pay that.
Yeah.
So it's the
They- they
750,
didn't. So
20,
you're saying 10 what?
10962.
Right, so that would mean we're including in the vote that we just already had, 750, Cancer Center of Western Maine, the Andwell Health Partners, formerly Androscoggin Home Health, at 2,212, Seniors Plus at 4,000, and Community Concepts at 4,000.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a total of 10,962. Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
That's the revised.
And even.
Is it a revised one or is it, because
It's,
we've already,
it's a new one.
Yeah.
So we're just, we don't have to go back and do anything to it.
No, it's just, I think we, as long as we understand what's in that 10,962.
so we alleviate the 750.
Yeah, we just included it in the, or we're just doing it again.
I second it, whatever.
All right, so we all understand what we're doing?
Yep.
All right, if there aren't any other
You
questions.
made the motion.
I made the motion.
Yeah.
And then
Nice
second,
shot.
second.
And Pat seconded, yeah. All right, all those in favor for the 10,962 for the ones that we mentioned?
Pat did have her hand up.
Yeah.
Did you have your hand?
I was up, yeah, I was up.
Okay, motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee,
What she said.
I have a question for.
10,962. Question.
If we need a second first.
Yeah, you do.
Second. If we wanted to put a max cap on total agency funding at 10,
I don't think we can do that.
Well, they can make a motion for a total amount. They can make a motion for a different amount
I don't know.
to
at
recommend.
some point, we've got to have this conversation.
We need to make
Well,
a
we've
policy.
already made that discussion last time, because the select
It's up
people are
to, it's
supposed
up
to
to
be,
the board, yeah.
Yeah.
supposed to be going after a policy for contributions,
Yeah.
which we haven't heard back from yet.
Yeah, and I don't think it's gonna be in this timeframe.
Seconded on the.
Any further discussion on the 10,962? All those in favor? Vote, in favor? Unanimous.
No, I'm opposed.
Do you need a Snickers?
Did you really oppose?
Yes, I am.
Yes, he is.
Alright,
Yes,
so
he is.
But it's still, we're yes and yes on.
we're
Went
continuing
through it.
on
Keep going.
with employee benefits.
I make a motion that we recommend $743,374 for employee benefits.
Second.
No questions, all those in favor? And the motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee,
Same motion.
Second.
discussion. All those in favor? Opposed, Bob? Bob's opposed.
I'm opposed. Why are we voting on something we have no input to?
We heard you.
Huh?
We heard you. No one has an answer, let's move on.
Well, you would have impact if you
Can-
voted no, so,
Can I
oh,
did
no,
vote no.
you can only vote with your, vote with
Can I
your feet
put a
here.
request in for the next time that we get stickers or something?
We're continuing on with municipal insurance.
There's one.
All right, I make a motion that we recommend $53,750 for municipal insurance.
Second.
No questions, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee?
Same motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Capital expenditures, CIP.
I make a motion that we recommend $1,049,225 for capital expenditures.
Second.
No questions, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee?
Same recommendation.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Airport,
I make a motion that we recommend $196,033 for the airport.
Second.
so no questions, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee?
Same motion.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Okay, the miscellaneous accounts, Oxford County taxes is not something, I don't believe we put recommendations or anything there. And, the set report, undesignated. The recommendation of 500,000.
I make a motion that we recommend $100,000 be taken from the undesignated fund to lower taxes.
Very second, right? Yeah.
Yep.
If there are any questions, all those in favor? Motion passes unanimous.
Budget committee?
Same motion, 500,000.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous.
Now, that number can be readjusted at town meeting, right?
Lower,
Lowered only,
Huh?
lowered only,
lowered.
they can only go lower.
So what's, never mind.
The way the warrant articles are written, it's to go no higher than that. I mean, I guess the judge could rule otherwise, but. Unless you guys wanna,
I guess, what's the, when would we all get back together? I guess that's.
Yeah.
Is there,
no, did you have, like, you mentioned the second.
Well, I looked at the second, one select board member would not be able to be here for that vote.
I won't be here next Monday, so but
So,
Is that only one Monday?
And administrative,
we have two.
rec and administrative.
which the two new positions.
Unless I can zoom, and I'm not allowed to zoom in.
Not unless it's an emergency situation, but actually, yeah,
We didn't vote on the last two.
It's safe.
We don't have to vote on the school and the county
Are you
because
okay
they don't
with the
want a
second?
warrant.
Oh, okay.
They don't have any choice in those. Yeah,
So it's
okay.
either-
But they have.
We
a
can
meeting.
vote
Whichever, whatever
works for
you guys
everybody
want.
else.
Those get voted on Tuesday.
Do
It's
it.
just that, then it'll just.
So one option for the budget committee, the
No,
budget
it's
committee
just
could
before
vote
it's-
on those two
Oh, yeah, yeah,
pending
yeah.
the
Yeah,
decision
May
of the
something.
select
No,
board.
Tuesday.
And then you wouldn't have to come back again, and the select board
Oh,
can
you're saying
vote
you
on
can
both of
vote.
them
16.
at their meeting
No,
on
nine.
Wednesday.
So, Jerry, you said we could take a vote now?
You can
following
take a
your
vote
recommendation?
now on what amount you want, and it can be contingent on what the select board approved for, including or not including those part-time positions.
However, we
Then
would,
we don't get to really
yeah,
have any input,
right,
vice versa.
Yeah.
They won't have input.
Yeah.
from people.
yeah.
I mean, is it worth having a discussion now? So
No.
No.
Well, you guys hash it out, go back and tell us what the rules are, then we'll vote.
Yeah, I think we need to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want
So
to go around in
when,
circles here for another 2 hours.
so
Can
we
we
need to
vote
figure out when.
On Wednesday?
What's that?
Can we vote on Wednesday?
Yes, you can.
So what if we did that, we'll discuss and vote on Wednesday? And then, because the problem is one of the two of us would be
One of
missing.
the two of you have
So we
to,
wouldn't have a full
have to
select
do
board,
it.
we don't have
Right.
to vote anyway,
But,
so.
I mean, the discussion that would, when we come back together, would be on everything, not just the wages.
The whole package.
Yeah. Although you'd certainly have input on what the wages piece is.
We would,
Just as the budget committee is not comfortable
Getting recorded.
meeting without having us here, I would be uncomfortable voting on the whole thing without them here. But you would have at the select board meeting the benefit of knowing what the outcome is in regards to the job descriptions and the wages. You would have that. You would
But I'm
have
saying,
that
could
piece.
we vote on the rec budget and the administration budget on Wednesday as a select board?
I would prefer not to.
Okay.
So why don't we take a vote and see what you're gonna do? Because we don't know what everybody wants to do. We're just all giving ideas, so you can you can take a vote if you're going to vote Wednesday night, or not vote Thursday night, or if you want the budget committee and the select board to be in the same room at the same time. It can be done either way, and it is done either way. But there's no clear majority here by everybody just saying they prefer to do it this way or that way.
I think it's better if we all do it together.
Yeah, so that leaves us with dates and our
So
situation.
does it have to be a Monday? Could we do a different?
No, whatever date that you can all get back together.
Whatever
So
you
we just need to
do.
find a date.
and what's our deadline?
Yes.
Because I'm not going to in a while.
When are you coming back?
We'll be back midday on the 14th, which is the long.
14th of April.
Could we do the 15th? We have a select board meeting anyway.
Is it too late? How?
5:30
What's
on
the
the
latest we
15th.
can vote and everything works through the warrant?
We don't have to have a warrant until
Or-
7 days before the town meeting.
I mean, so we're not up against any deadline.
But you're meeting
Well, we are,
This
in
Wednesday,
the sense that,
right?
yes, the warrant has got to be done,
Right.
so, yes.
Yeah, I mean, if we want it done, ahead of time, unless, one of you toss a coin.
Yeah,
For
no,
Thursday.
I mean, it's fine, it's just, then the warrant will just show that the select board voted for the 0, right?
We would have a majority and then we just have recommends, whatever the
Then it
majority
shows the-
recommends, yeah.
it shows
Yeah,
the-
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
decide.
and you're gonna discuss it Wednesday night, is that right?
The select board is
This
gonna
coming
discuss,
Wednesday.
it's on the agenda
This
for
coming
them
Wednesday.
to discuss the,
Can we all come on Wednesday at 8? No.
at 8.
I'm just
I know
trying
it-
to decide how long it will
cuts
take
you
that.
out for April 2nd, but at least you would have a voice in regards to the wages and such.
It's true.
Um,
Yeah.
So you can do that Wednesday night, right? Because you're gonna be here Wednesday for the meeting.
I'll be here Wednesday.
Yeah, so we participate in the discussion, which I think is good to have all of us here for, which is the wages, the wage pieces and the job descriptions. And then meet the following night, both boards, to share the information and vote on the two.
Can we have like a 5:30 meeting in, April? I mean, the second meeting in April, so that the budget committee can be on that? Will you be back for that one?
Yeah, I'm not missing, I wasn't gonna miss any select board or budget meetings,
You're saying 15th.
We could try it for like 5 o'clock.
Just have a 5:30,
Five-
5 or
5 o'clock.
5:30. I mean, we're only voting on two things, I think 5:30 would probably cover it.
Yeah. Does that work for you all,
Is that-
April 15th?
Does that make any,
5:30?
Where are we at, the 15th of April?
April
Yeah.
15th at
April
5:30.
15th at 5:30?
5:30?
Budget committee?
What day of the week is that?
It's Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
As long as we get done before 8 o'clock.
You
Hopefully we
will,
will.
you will.
Well, the select board are gonna
You'll
be
get
on
done before
6
6.
anyway.
So Wednesday, the 15th at 5:30?
We have either April 2nd, that's a Thursday, or April 15th. We'll have a full board on April 15th. We'll have 4 out of 5 on April 2nd, or any other time before April 15th.
All you need is a majority, so.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah, so
I'm-
April 2nd or
I do not
April
do
15th.
If we're not working on a hard deadline.
April
I
15th?
just cannot do the 7th through.
How about April 2?
15th?
15th?
So if we meet on April 15th at
Rose, you okay
5:30,
with
the
15th?
joint board.
I prefer the
before
second. It's in a few days, I mean, do
I
we all-
cannot meet the second.
Oh,
Who else
And
can
Faye
be
can't.
here? Faye can't be here.
So 15th, does that work for people? Most people?
I'll make it.
Going twice?
So,
Somebody bought it.
Or maybe like at 5:15,
15th.
just to give us
At
some
5:30.
time.
5:30.
And break before the 6 o'clock.
5:30.
Then it will be
5:30?
important that we have
Okay.
a forum for them, right, for
You
any,
guys,
so it's
if
really
we end up
important.
running late,
that
then you
this
guys
will be-
meeting is a little bit.
She knows, so that-
yeah.
Make a motion.
Sharon, will you
Maybe
send out an
second.
email to
All
everyone?
in favor?
And we,
15th, 5:30.
no more business, we're all done here. Thanks, everybody.
When we do our last one, we get at the bottom, grand total of every across the bottom. Like a total of all the numbers.
And 15th,
Yes, I will.
You're dismissed.
What do you ask me,
Just,
Jim?
can we get
No wonder I'm exhausted.
a grand total at the bottom of
It is, there is a grand total there.
But it will change slightly. because of
the, I don't have the money.
Good one.
Oh, the update still was voted
Oh,
on
wait a
tonight.
minute, hold on, I'm
Do you see it?
misreading it. I was reading that as full house. I'd love that if that was full house.
Yes, so it is there,
I just can't
Sharon,
read.
town meeting's the 10th, right?
yes.
You also
Just put it over here for now.
get a real rough idea of what the road will be.
Just a sec.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Just a real rough.
I would have to
Wipe off
get
his driveway.
Rob's estimated totals of what he thinks the increased assessed value is gonna be to do that, and then I can put some numbers.
We're gonna hold. Build your road.
No, you can get a sense of who's, you can get a
Yeah, we used
sense.
to be able to get it just a general rough.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Any pond, read this,
I was
already.
wondering,
You're going in, you're going in,
Nothing's worse when you're trying to knock off and tell you to just
woman, that's when you're gonna get wet. Not by calling over. If you're in the aisle, take the turn, tell the guy, I'll take you downstairs. Ira.
And I totally hear what you're saying.
Get in touch with your brother. A while back,
Yeah, I wanna know how he raised.
From our process, I feel like it's helpful to hear from.
He didn't get, you didn't get fired like he did.
Around like how things.
Oh, right. I was on maybe the fortunate one.
And he was like, no, please.
He was bragging about he used to do it himself before, really?
He could still do them himself.
You gotta make
He really could. But, I don't help anybody.
The original plan was.
When he was telling me that, oh my God, Jeep.
Yeah, you're like number 78 on the list.
I think ordering.
Well, I don't need to get, can I move up at all? Wait, he said it depends on you doing.
I don't know.
Yeah, everyone's missed.
Clear the way so I can get home.
Yeah,
See
everyone's
you
good.
Wednesday, I guess.
Everything on it still work? Still use it generally grass fires and stuff?
They give him 5 permits? They do it online? I took a snow over there, I think I'll do that tomorrow.
And I said, this would be.
So if I forget to call in, don't come to fire up there.
You can't get it till 9 o'clock online.
What, 9 o'clock? I'm not dragging my hose over there either, because I have to get it out.
Hey,
He
Yeah.
this is the light one. He's not gonna tell what to do, and he's not gonna want something. So he told
been my neighbor for how long?
He
You know, that's what I do.
went, he should have
Get
come
mad,
to me
I don't know if
and
it's
said,
mad, but
but
at home I get mad and just.
at a pilot program, which he never.
Yeah, I mean, that's the exact thing.
Well, talking at school with the young personnel, he thinks he can do whatever he wants, and he doesn't I don't support having a full-time recreation director right now, 2 part-time recreation directors. I mean, I think I've stated my reasons.
Right, you have.
The Department of Labor for one. The community recreation director, maybe we need to look at that with the other towns that do recreation with us. And see how we can combine that entire thing together. But you don't have 2 part-time directors. You either have a full-time or you have a part-time and an assistant, or you have a full-time and an assistant.
There's gotta, because.
And, I don't support that after talking with Lindsay today from the W.H.A.T.